Hello and welcome to 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League Towers. Yes, we're here yet again for another entertaining episode. I know last week we ended up having to do a long play version, but this time it's going to be a little bit shorter. Perhaps not taking too much away from what's happened. It's been a bit of a shorter week as far as our games are concerned, but we'll still do our best to send you right through them. We've got some interesting interviews to bring you as well, with the likes of Bob Marsden from the Great Britain Police, from Elliot Licku from the Great Britain Teachers, from Gary Dunn from the UK Armed Forces, and Kevin Dainton joins us from England Universities. It was, of course, the final week of the President's Cup. Who was going to win? It was the big playoff between England Universities and the UK Armed Forces. Well, we'll have all of that for you. I also had the opportunity to speak at length to Rochdale Mayfield's chairman, Neil Ramsden, and that's a cracking interview if I do say so myself. They've got an awful lot of things going on at the moment, and they're near the top of the tree as well, so things just can't get any better as far as Rochdale Mayfield are concerned at this moment. As per usual, I'm joined alongside me by the man who's busy pressing all the buttons and who has actually seen more community rugby league than I have this week. It's none other than Mr. Steve Beach. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing fine, thanks, Parky. Pressing all the buttons too. It actually is that.
Well, you're still pressing more buttons than I am, that's for sure. I'm sitting opposite you, and I've just got to look at phones and notes and things.
Weekend wise, yes. So went out to watch some of the cup matches. I went out to watch a cup match in the Northwest Men's League. Unfortunately, the one I went to see was forfeited by the away team, so I managed to get over to Goulburn to watch Goulburn against Burton Wood Bridge, which was a good game. It's two teams that have got a lot of history against each other over certainly the last few years. Met quite a few times. Yet another hot day. That's 3 Saturdays on the trot that's been absolutely blistering.
This could be habit forming.
It was not so bad, It was a great game. Got an interview with Matty Wilson, the coach of Burton Wood Bridge, and was having a chat to him. And good game. Just wait to see what happens in the semi-final draw that's going to be coming up, I think in a couple of weeks' time, if I'm not wrong.
Always good to sort of see what happens in the cup competitions, particularly in the Northwest Men's and Yorkshire Men's League. We've got cup final fever also hitting Cumbria as well. It is the final of the EB Lamb Amateur Cup, so we'll be bringing you a little bit of a look forward to that one as well, including our roundup of everything that's happened in Cumbria. I do want to start with the feature interview though, so I know I'm mixing the system up a little bit. Because I'm that keen for everybody to hear it. So a little bit earlier in the week, I caught up with Neil Ramsden. He's the chairperson of Rochdale Mayfield, and we had a cracking conversation. Okay, you know that we love our guests here on the 13 Pro-Am Community Rugby League show. Well, I'm really delighted that we've got a club in focus again this coming week, and it is Rochdale Mayfield, a club that was created back in 1958. I'm alongside current chairman Neil Ramsden. Neil, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
Really good, really good. So what can you tell me a little bit about, Mayfield's history? I mean, it's been around a long time, hasn't it? 1958.
Yeah, I mean, I can only go back so long because, I'm very young, 45 years young. But going back, God, I started playing back at the old club, which was on Kessimore Cricket Ground, from being about 19. They didn't really have any youth teams back then, so I signed out when I was about 19. We had a few years then before we bought the football club next door and sold the land, and we moved over there and we've been there ever since. And just slowly but surely building and going forward with it.
That was going to be one of my questions, actually, Neil, because obviously I've been down to Mayfield a few times, in the last few years, but I've seen Mayfield a few times in the last few weeks, actually. But I was sort of wondering, how far away the previous club was, because I understood it was pretty close, but Was it
Yeah,
literally just round the corner?
literally, yeah. So the way you drive in is you drive down Keswick Street and you
Yeah,
drive through the new housing estate there.
yeah.
That was the field.
Ah, right, okay.
That was the field, yeah, and just sort of set back behind the houses with the clubhouse and the old cricket pavilion and the steps, the concrete step stairs. Yeah, a bit old school. Um, and then yeah, as you cut through there, it was split into two. There were a bit of land there that we sold. Um, yeah, I'm going to say a few years back, but it probably good 10 years ago now.
Yes, yeah,
Time
yeah.
flies, but yeah, literally next door.
And I suppose as well, with it being a housing estate now, you've got you've got ready-made future players on the doorstep now, have you?
Well, we're only talking about that the other day. Yeah, the kids are flying around on the bikes there all the time, and I don't know any of them off that estate that actually comes and plays at the club.
Oh, really? That's a
Yeah, yeah.
surprise.
They all get over the fence and come and play at night, but yeah, yeah, we were talking about it. There's not many of the couple. Don't get me wrong, but all them kids, we've said a million times, get down there, get a ball in your hand. So I'm just not interested.
And I do love that ground. You know, it's very atmospheric. You don't need that many people on it to create its own atmosphere, do you?
In our max capacity stand. Yeah, we get about we'll get about 50 in that stand. But yeah, we're all behind the dugout. We're all in that corner. We're on the balcony. We have we have a few beers out there, and it's always a good day, especially when the sun's out like it is over these last couple of weeks.
Oh, it's been glorious. I mean, to be fair, I know you can't tell because we're doing this call on Zoom, so I know you can't tell, but I did get burnt at your place the other week.
I did myself, yeah, yeah.
And so did
Schoolboy
Hunslet
era.
by Furnace, didn't they?
Well, I bet yeah, the players definitely needed the cream.
So I know you've sort of touched upon it, but what's your own history with the club?
Um, yeah, I played my youth rugby at Scotland Rangers. I started pretty late actually in today's way of looking at it. Started at about 12. Played my youth rugby through Scotland Rangers. Um, played we had one youth team that went through the age groups. We went into open age. I think we were about 17. Yeah, we didn't go into 18. We were straight into open age. Northwest counties. Started in the lowest league, which I think it was about Division 6. And we went through every division up to Prem in Northwest counties. Um, and I think I can't get the dates right, but I went from there to the Mayfield. But I think we were about 20.
Hmm.
So yeah, I went up there because they didn't have any youth. Well, we started youth while I were there. What called Pete Duffy, who's on our committee now. He got the first Mayfield Mustangs youth going, but yeah, jumped into the first team at Mayfield. I think it was a season there, and ended up signing up at Hornets. Did a year or so there, but yeah, I didn't really. I felt my level was at Mayfield first team, and I would have to go back, and I played out the rest of my days there. And yeah, when did I finish? I think we were about 30 when I retired, and had a couple of years not really doing much, but then dropped into the coaching with me lad who's 16 now. So we started with him when they were 4.
Mhm.
And in the Cubs there, because what we have at Mayfield is, from Cubs, which is 4s, toddlers, just, running around, having a crack. It's in the bags playing. So they've done a good few years before they get into the first age group at under 7s. And then we've coached right away through till 16. And then, yeah, from there, got on the committee, as I was just saying, 3 years ago. And 3 years ago. And before that, I was on the committee for 8 weeks. And yeah, then Simon, the existing chairman, stepped down, and I was asked to take over, and here we are now.
That's some initiation for you. So you was on it for 8 weeks, and suddenly you find yourself as chair.
Yeah, we snuck that one in. I'm sure he manufactured the whole thing. Got me on, so, get a couple more lads in on the committee. So me and Marvin Connolly at first, who I coached the 16s with, say a big part of the club. We're never away from the place. I said, I'll go on if you go on. And here we are. Yeah, after 8 weeks, he said, I'm deciding I'm stepping down, and everybody sort of looked at each other, and I drew the short straw, and I said, I'll do it in the short term if I'm happy with it. All right, we'll carry on if you want me to, and that's where we are now.
And just what a journey have you been on in that time?
God, well, we started. I'll be honest. We started just before COVID, so we hit COVID, and what that actually did, it sort of gave us a little bit of breathing room as a new committee. As I was saying earlier, as soon as I got it, as soon as we took over as chairman, we brought in a larger committee than we'd had before. There's approximately, I can't do the numbers now, but I think there's at least 12 on the committee, and it was just about getting the I said that it's not about getting loads of people; it's getting in a lot of people with a different set of skills, or who can all stay in the lane and do a good job for the sake of the club. That give us that time to do that, and just sort of sit down and pull the club apart, and we sort of pulled it apart and started again from scratch, right from the corporate structure of the club, all the red tape, and then slowly through the youth, and then into the actual last thing is that we've dealt with is the on-field stuff for the first team, which is always been the main focus. And as a committee, we thought let's just start at the beginning, and we'll get to that. And that's where we've got to, obviously, at the start of the season, and that's now starting to bear fruit as well.
I mean, it's really interesting, and I think when I've spoken to clubs over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, they've always said that that COVID period, as horrible as it was, where obviously you couldn't get anybody down training, and there was no rugby league involvement as such. It did give clubs a breathing space to almost do like a root and branch approach to what they were doing.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to look at the positives in any situation, and that where was the negative was when we come back from COVID, our player retention from that, we dropped from approximately 350 youth players down to 240, something
Okay.
like that. I'm very approximate. I'm sure our secretary Shelley, knows all those numbers, but I don't off the top of my head. But yeah, for a long time there, right after COVID, we're really struggling for numbers, and it slowly picks up, and we, the numbers are actually going through the roof at the minute. I mean, that's a lot down to I go off on a tangent here, but Carl Abraham, who's out in the schools now for us, he's out in the schools, he's doing a great job. And we sort of he's buzzing things up, and we're getting new kids coming in all the time. You're going through the roof with the numbers.
I've seen him on social media, and obviously there's a lot of really good work that's being done at the moment. I'm really impressed that you're in as many schools as you are, and it seems to have been a really well accepted and well run program.
Yeah, we was going back again. It was something that was spoke about a year, 2 year ago, but it was a case of just prioritizing, little jobs, one thing at a time.
Mm.
And now we've done. Obviously, we've dealt with a lot of stuff. Now we can start looking at, the good stuff. The stuff that is about the rugby, that is about the development, and getting a big thing. Carl's massive for us because he does a fantastic job in it, and his reasons for doing it are the right reasons. And yeah, it's going from strength to strength. And we've got other things that we're looking at, with the kids and with the schools and the community, and we're getting, we're putting things up at the club, for I couldn't tell you all the ins and outs now because I'm only getting to grips with it myself when I speak to him. But disabled kids and all sorts of other things, other initiatives. It's going to go from strength to strength. That's going to be a massive thing for us going forward.
And it would seem from, certainly an outsider like myself looking into your club at the moment that you're heading towards that fully inclusive tag where there's a variant of rugby league for everybody, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, it's where do you stop? We do. Oh, phone going. Sorry. It's where do you stop? Because we could go on and on, but the facilities are only so big. We've got four pitches there, but they're full every night. At the minute they're full every night. We do have, we're called Mayfield Sports Centre, and that's because we did want to go down the line of other sports, but because primarily we're rugby league, and the rugby league's just going so well, and we're growing more and more teams. That's going to have to take a bit of a back burner. We do have a football team that plays from there, it's a good idea to have. We was going to start a boxing gym, believe it or not,
Really?
and have young boxers start from there. But again, we've just not been able to free it up, and we will get it going, because once everything's sort of sorted and with the rugby and all that's looking after itself, we'll just look for something else to do. So.
I mean, the good thing is, with sort of where you're based and sort of the land that you've got around, you've got space to do a lot of that stuff as well, haven't you? And to investigate other sports and, improve, your offering, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, we've historically, I don't think there's been much contact through the club with the local council, but over the last 2 years, we've been more engaged with the council, and we are trying to do a little bit more from a community point of view. In Rochdale, local issues like in Castleton, they're on about losing the community centre. So, we've been engaged with them, looking at options that we can go forward further down the line on that sort of thing. But again, these things just, they take a lot of time, and, that's just going to have to be one for the future.
I mean, as well, there's other clubs that have kind of gone down that route as well. I'm thinking, I know West Hull, for example, they have a lot of community groups that kind of use their facilities. I think Shevington, when they built their new facilities, they had that one eye with that in mind as well. So it's really encouraging. And I suppose one thing that COVID did tell us was that our community clubs are just that. They are the centre of the community and are starting to offer a lot more.
Yeah, I wax lyrical about, especially through what a rugby league club gives young kids, right? Especially those that start, from an early age and come through the age groups, and with the right people involved. But what kids take out of a rugby league club, it's priceless, absolutely priceless. These kids, I know I was one. You can do one route or another, should I say? If you're engaged with a sports club in whatever level, and you're invested in it, that's something there that you're going to get discipline from. It's going to be something that it can be used as a stick to hit you with by your parents. You don't behave. You're not doing your homework. You ain't going training. You're not going to be playing weekend. If that's your thing, you'll toe the line. You'll do that. If your parents are getting nowhere with you at home, well, call to the coach. All of a sudden, the coach is having a word with you, giving you the hard word, and more often than not, that'll go a lot further than it will with a parent sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what I found with our parents, when I talk to our parents, is you can't really describe. They couldn't put a price on what it's done for them. You know what I mean?
I mean, because it's kind of difficult to explain, but also easy to explain what rugby league provides, doesn't it? Because you get friends for life.
Yeah,
You increase all your communication. It's a sport where your confidence grows naturally as your strength and as your skills do. And like you said, it kind of keeps you a little bit on the straight and narrow as well because it's such a disciplined game.
yeah.
And a good thing, that certainly I've noticed with my involvement with the England Community Lions sides over the last sort of 2 or 3 years that I've been doing it, there's a lot of kids from Rochdale Mayfield that trial.
Mm.
And I know that is, full credit to what you're doing as a club.
Yeah, we've oh, we've had a few go through this year actually trialing, and young Harry Sheridan and Ben Metcalf have just been selected for the 18s. We had a few of our lads from the 16s go through through that trialing period, and luckily Ethan Sykes just missed out on the selection on the last round of selection. I think he went into his last trial injured from training with us with his shoulder. So it was a shame that, but yeah, we've actually had a good representation from Mayfield, but through the England community game. And but like this year around with our 16s, we actually have 8 um, players on scholarship. So we've had a good crop this year, and these from the years below 15s and 14s, there's plenty going on with them as well.
Speaking just from a wider rugby league point of view, isn't it strange that you get some years where there's like lots and lots of representation, and you're thinking, oh, that's a really good age group, So like yourself, and you've spoken about the under 16s. I've seen that trial process as it's gone through from a community Lions point of view, and it's been really tough this year because the competition has been so good, and the bar is certainly raised on this age group compared with the same kids that were trialing at the same age group last year. And that's
Mm.
not being nasty or disparaging about that, but it sometimes is that way, isn't it, where you get certain years where there's lots and lots of
Yeah.
really good players with great skill sets and really good manners about them.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit biased here because obviously every Sunday I'm watching this particular age group, which is the 16s. But there's 4 or 5 of those top end teams there, and those teams are absolutely bursting with fantastic players, absolutely brilliant players. And there's been a real good crop, especially of ours this year that have managed to go to Wigan, Warrington, and Bradford. Um, but yeah, as an age group, again, I've got to be. I know the reference because I don't go and watch the other age groups
Yeah.
because we're with our age group. But yeah, I've got to say the standard going back like 13s and 14s. I was like, I can't believe the standard that these kids are at when you measure what, let's say, where I were up to at that age. And that comes from just starting really, really young, really, really young, starting getting all the core skills and the good coaching early. It just gives them that much of an head start that you can't help but succeed. And it's not all about going through to 16s or whatever and going scholarship and academy and Super League. There's absolutely nothing wrong with playing a great standard of rugby in the NCL. Let's say for Mayfield, that I want all those kids more than happy to play in that first team. I want them pushing for that first team. But talking with my own lad, that whatever is happening with him, you know, in the scholarship side of things, a lot of kids that go to these scholarships, they when it doesn't work or the academy and it doesn't quite work for them, it doesn't mean that they're a bad player. It means it could be something totally different. And they seem to feel that there's a failure and they go away from the game. What we're trying to do at Mayfield, and we have regular coaches meetings now, and a big thing on this is got to be rammed down the throat. That's all well and good. It's extra coaching and go and give it everything and get as far as you can. But this is your own. This is where you belong as far as we're concerned. And we want to see you on that first team pitch, and we want you to feel like that's an achievement as well.
I kind of like how you've described that as well because, again, I remember speaking to Siddle probably about 18 months ago now, and they were saying very much the same sort of thing where they have a chat with all the lads that end up going into scholarships or end up going saying, you can always come back, you are always welcome. First and foremost, you were a Siddle player and you are part of the Siddle family. And it sounds like you've got something very much the same going on with Mayfield.
It's similar, other than we ram it down the throat. You're still a Mayfield player,
Mhm.
even when even if you leave and you've got a first team contract, you'll always be known up here as a Mayfield lad. We've got Matty Ashton and Matty Lees. They're our two flagship players at the moment. As soon as they're on, any sort of, social media, we're on to Mayfield lads. And we always will. But yeah, it's about even now when they're out there and they're doing the academy thing, we want them back at the club. They come, we try and get them back training. I mean, again, talking about our scholarship lads, when they've done training on Saturday morning, because they have them in early, crack of dawn, which is fantastic on a Saturday morning for all the parents. They go from there and we'll get them back to Mayfield and we'll do an hour with them there because we don't, we say that the lads that aren't on scholarship, they should still be getting as much training. That doesn't drop off because the lads are at training. And it's just about giving everyone that, the same opportunity and effort from the coaches that those lads will get elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Have you found that, from like the other age groups as well? So I'm thinking, like the 18s, because they would have been through all that scholarship stuff, wouldn't they? And have they started to sort of like stick together in the same sort of format or a similar sort of format?
Um, the 18s as it stands now do have a couple of lads on with the academy at Warrington.
Okay.
And again, I can only talk about that because I know exactly what's going on there. Warrington have just made a decision and agreement with the Northwest Counties. Rather than have academy players, signed on, and if not getting picked for whatever reason, they only play every other week. They want these lads playing, so they want them to go back to the community club, and they want to be able to play within the community teams and the under 18s, which I totally agree with. Why have a load of kids? They're there and they're fighting for positions, and you've got like 2 or 3 age groups within that. If they're not playing, get them back in the community game.
Ultimately, you want players playing rugby, don't you?
Of course they do. They want to play, and what I like about the Warrington side of things is they want them playing. They recognise it. I don't know. Well, I do know that the other Super League clubs aren't doing that.
Mm.
I know that Warrington, when I spoke to Gary Chambers, obviously because he knows my position with the club at Mayfield, he was happy to tell me, and I was happy to hear it. I say it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's great. Even like reserve players, that playing in that reserve squad, if they're not playing, get them back to get them back in the community game. And don't but it's about managing young lads' expectations that don't see that as a negative.
Mm.
Don't see that as a bit too good to come and play in the community game now. I have a contract. It's the wrong way to think. It's not good for the game.
It's another development opportunity, is how it should be seen, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. If lads are good, lads want to go back and want to go back and they do go back, we'll show how good you are. We want to see it on the field. Wearing Mayfield shirt, if that's how it's going to go.
And certainly you've got a few players in the first team setup that have come all the way through, haven't you? Which is really encouraging. And lads that have come back to the club who, I know certainly, because I remember when Matt Calland was coaching there and then he got the job at Rochdale Hornets, didn't he? And he was like, who can I trust to get me out of my fix that I'm in? I'll return to Mayfield, which must have been a terrible time for the club in that
Shocking,
respect,
yeah.
because he ended up with him taking half of the first team. But the
Yeah,
encouraging thing
I
is,
think you were about 10.
the encouraging thing is, a lot of those lads have come back now, haven't they? And they're
Yeah,
wanting to
yeah.
get involved
Well,
again.
there were no, with everyone involved there now, there were no bad blood involved in all that. It was just one of those things. The frustrating thing at that time was we had a very good first team that were going really well. Those lads, and they were all Mayfield right the way through, those lads. They were all playing in that first team. They'd come through as young lads. They were just getting that little bit older. So we were starting to see them, mature, and we're getting somewhere as a side in the NCL competition. But we also had a load of good kids come through into the 18, which myself and Marvin Connolly were coaching for 2 years, and I think we got promoted up into the Prem. We'd just got promoted into the Prem when that particular situation happened. And what happened then was let's call it 10 players went and signed at Hornets. We had to replace those players from the 18, which decimated a really good 18. They were going into the Premier, and you're left with other young players then coming into that team, which weren't really up to it physically. And we're really all of a sudden then we've got a team in the Prem that weren't a Premiership team, Premier Division team. So yeah, it were a bad time. It were about rebuilding, and that sort of brings us to today, which is where we're at the minute. We do have homegrown talent that have come through into the first team, but we also have recruited. We've got a couple of the ex-pros back that were Mayfield lads. We've got lads that were not one lad that were not to the club, Penke, the old boy. We brought him in. I know he's a lead lad, and there's all sorts of whispers going on, but he was known by all the lads that he played with, which are Mayfield lads, and he wanted to come and have a season with us, and I'm glad he has. We've also brought over 4 Australian lads that all we've rented a house and we put them up. We've found them jobs, from within the committee, the lads that have businesses there. We've got them work, and they're doing an absolutely fantastic job for us. So we have recruited, but the aim is to go back to a homegrown first team, and all those kids that come through from, let's say, our 16s, the 18s now, and 15s below, within the next few years. We want that full first team. I mean, we're always going to have an overseas lad or two, but we want to be fully self-sufficient, especially with all the youth that we bring through.
But the interesting thing is, and those perhaps not in the know, they look down that team sheet and go, "Oh, it's all full of Aussies." I've heard it,
Well, I've heard all the whispers.
Oh, but
I wander around that ground, and they probably wonder who this bloke's stood behind me. I'm just listening to it. I'm just listening to all the rumours.
Oh, but it's not like you're doing anything that you can't do. Because
Anyone can go and do that.
Anybody can go and do what you're doing.
What we don't realise is we send players the other way.
Well, this is what I was getting at, because you've got sort of almost like a player sharing agreement, really, haven't you, with a couple of clubs?
Yeah, the Mullumbimby, that side is where Matty Ashton went over, and he had a season or so over there, didn't he, before he come back and ripped the world apart. We had a couple of, who else has been over there? Simon Moore, Adi Gleason. These 4 lads have actually come from Team Cocoana Dolphins. So going forward, yeah, we will want to sort of send a couple of lads that want an opportunity, and we want to go over and see what it's like in Australia. I'm sure we can organise something to get them going that way as well.
But you're providing like life opportunities, aren't you? That's what it is. And if you've got those sort of agreements in place, I think that's fantastic, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I can't believe I never did it myself. It, I always say it's a big, it is really a big regret that I never went and had a season, a season or two myself. So if it's there for them, why not? And these young kids, before they get bogged down in life, go and have a season, go and do it. always here to come back to.
So I know that you've obviously been telling me about the recruitment. You've got everything, pushing towards getting in that first team and making it even stronger over the coming years. But I've got to say, has this season surprised you at all? I mean, you're flying high at the moment.
I was going to say, it might sound very arrogant, but no, because I'd sort of set myself and the committee, but it was sort of, I was going to make it my baby that one way or another we need to improve what's happening on the field, and without talking out of school, about club situations, but over the last couple of years, we sort of identified, and I said, with the coaches, I said we've got to have an open and frank conversation here, and I think as a club, as players, the players nowadays and everything, I just thought we'd slipped into a real bad culture, a real bad attitude towards the whole thing, and it was towards attitude towards training, whether or not they were training. It led to they won't mind me saying the coaches picking teams, just trying to get a result, and not holding anybody account, not having standards within training, and if you're not trained, they're not played, and that's definitely nothing down to the coaches. It was down to everybody to just sort of say enough's enough. Here's what we're going to do, and I was prepared at the start of the season and through the off season. I said I'm prepared if it means it to make this culture right and set the standards. Then as a club we've got to prepare to be relegated. Mm-hmm. And I was fully prepared to do that. Luckily, we didn't get there. The recruitment happened all right. It picked all the existing lads up. They were left under no illusions that what you've got to do to be in this team. Now we've backed it up with some results, and no one wants to be left out of this team. So it's and on the back of the results, which are on the back of training, which is on the back of good performances. The club's full. The club's full. The bar's full. The bar's full. We make more money. We make more money. We can put it back into the club, pay for all the kids. The kids come through the club again, go into the first team, and on we go. And it all comes down to that culture and keeping that culture. And that's what that'll be my my biggest priority is to keep that going, and that will keep going through the kids. And I just want it to be, a vicious circle.
But it does look like as well the players that have come in, they've all added to that culture, haven't they? They've all really bought into it. And again, outsider looking in and having only seen you a couple of times this season, but everybody looks like they enjoy each other's company, which is a massive point. They're
a good. I'm on the first team group. I did come out of it once over. I was sick of all the. I was sick of everything that were going on in there. They had a good group. They were a close group, and they had the crack together. I mean, I could never fathom playing a game of rugby league and then going home after a game. And it went down that
is that what was happening? So players were just sort of going off.
It seemed to be for years. They just
right.
Without saying too much, we used to finish the game. We used to go in the bar, and that was that. That was that. We were all together as a team, and that was the. I won't say it's the best thing about rugby, but it was certainly up there. That was your weekend, and it just got to the point where again, and it comes down to lads not training and then not sticking together after the game. And it went a little bit, a little bit downhill, and again I'll go back to that was the thing that we had to fix. And once you fix that, I think everything sorts itself out. The performance on the field will sort itself out. But the other lads that's come over, obviously they didn't need any sort of prompting. That they were fully on board with everything that we were doing. It's probably just the norm. But I don't want to put anybody down too much over the last few years. But it is just where we ended up.
Yeah, and I think as well, the other thing that I've noticed when I've been speaking to other clubs, other coaches in particular, is the fact that I suppose squads have to be bigger, don't they, in modern community rugby because let's be honest, you've got all kinds of other distractions going on. You've got players that they need to work, so
Well,
they might only be available sort of 2 weeks in four or something like that. So but you seem to have stuck together and had like a really good group in that respect as well. Where if anybody is missing, someone else comes in and they know the place and they know what they're playing for. If you know what I mean.
yeah, I mean, it's just the beauty of having a big squad. When I say a big squad, we have the first team and the 18 squads and the 18s, and they do sort of they don't all train together, but the ideal scenario is any one of them can play in any one of those teams. Being realistic, no, when we're looking at what we're putting on the field now, we're probably there's 24 lads that could easily play in that first team and keep each other out, which is a nice change. I don't mind saying it's a nice change. We can afford. We've had 4 lads injured last week, and we can still go on and put a performance. Which, again, going back historically, you miss a couple of key lads. You're knackered. You're not getting a result.
Yeah.
And then we had lads out. We had lads out near enough every week for the last 4 games. To go up to Watt get a result. You don't get a result there. You don't get a result there. If you full strength, we got a result at Watt we got a result with Hunslet at home, and we had class lads sat watching. So it's a massive plus for us.
It certainly suggests that everything's going in the right direction, isn't it? Or more than going in the right direction. Because I've made I know you won't be drawn into any of this, by the way, Neil. But I've already tipped you as being a really good bet for a playoff position come the end of the season, and see what happens.
Well, I knew you knew what you were talking about.
Thanks. It's about the
Yeah,
first
but
time.
don't give us the kiss of death, will you?
It's about the first time anybody's ever said that, to be honest, Neil. But about me in particular. But one thing that I do want to sort of come on to is the fact that, as well as getting the players back that were kind of lost during that COVID time, and all the age groups sort of starting to come to. You've got your excellent work that you're doing in the schools. Is the growth of the women in the girls section, which I think is nothing short of phenomenal. When you look at what you've done and the amount of players and the amount of girls and the amount of families that you've now got involved down at Mayfield, which perhaps 2 years ago, 3 years ago you didn't have. Again, this is fantastic.
Well, this is the second season for the girls' youth teams. So we started last year. It was a 12s and a 14s. Well, it started off just with an idea of getting girls rugby going at the club. My wife's cousin is Vicky Molyneux, who plays for Wigan in England, and every now and then we have a couple of beers and we talk about what should be happening up at the club. And we were saying you need to get the girls rugby going. It's growing. You don't get left behind. I said, well, we'll do it, but you'll be doing it. So, I slowly ground it down, and we got to come up and do a couple of sessions. We started off just with an open session, which was, I think we had about 45 girls there. So we went through and looked at what the age group was, who had most, and then sort of we ended up splitting into 2 teams. So we went from having no teams to having 2 teams. And obviously they've come up into 13s and 15s this year. And I'm sure Vicky, hates me for it because it'll take up all her spare time. But yeah, basically she floats between the 2 teams. And then on the back of that, we've this year started our first open age women's team. And as I were, we were chatting before this. We've had 2 home games with the women's team now, and we've had as many, if not more, supporters at those games than we've had at any of the first team games. the turnout and the support for it's absolutely fantastic.
There's a real appetite, isn't there, on the back of... Well, it's probably on the back of the World Cup, in fairness, but I think it runs a little bit deeper than that. And certainly in getting someone like Vicky involved, I mean, she is so well respected and has such a good way about her that, you know, if you're after a role model as a girl to look up to, you're going to be looking at someone like Vicky, aren't you?
Yeah, none better. Yeah, she's really fantastic. But she's a PE school teacher as well, so she knows exactly how to deal with the kids. And they do all idolise her. Every game that she plays, when we go and watch her for England, there's just hundreds of young girls. I say hundreds, but there's plenty of young girls there at the bottom. All waiting for her. And most of a lot of those are the Mayfield girls. So yeah, it's unbelievable. But with the open age women, and I will get her to play for the open age team when she finishes up. She don't know that yet. But that women's team started, and it's not it's not women's rugby players that come from another team or anything like that. There is some, but it was just a post on social media. Come down, give it a go. There were some of the mums and parents and from the club, and they come down. Never picked up a rugby ball. Never picked up a rugby ball. Come down every week, twice a week for a long pre-season, and then we went to watch the first game. I didn't really know what I should be expecting. Didn't expect a great deal, being totally honest. It was absolutely fantastic. No holding back. Absolute lunatics. Absolute lunatics. And give it a real good go, and you wouldn't know that they hadn't picked a ball up before that day in a competitive rugby league game. It were awesome, and it still is.
How good is that? How good is that? What league are they playing in? Are they in sort of like? Did they have a league? It's like a merit league, is it? Right. Okay.
At the minute they're just trying to get a game.
Yeah.
They played Haitian in the first game. They've been playing at least a couple of years, I think, and I can't remember who played last week. Ashton Bears did last week.
But I mean that's so encouraging as well, because again, in getting to cover the amount of rugby league that I do, and as a self-certified rugby league nerd, I've seen a lot of teams, and it's nice hearing about teams this side of the Pennines now that are starting to like develop girl sides and stuff, because it just seems like it's been a little bit heading towards Yorkshire. There's been far more Yorkshire-based sides than there has over this side of the Pennines. So when you're mentioning like Ashton Burrs, and obviously I know the work that Lee Miners have put in, Lee East in the past have had girls teams and stuff, but now it's becoming more consistent, isn't it? And there's a huge drive in it.
It's really growing. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm in my own little world normally with what we're doing as a first team and the kids teams or whatever, but it'll all go from strength to strength, that women's game. It is. It's really good. And at first I just wanted to keep up with that as a club, and do our bit. And I won't say tick a box, but it's probably the best thing we've done in a long while as a club. With any sort of team. And you see them in the club afterwards. They don't go. They don't go on because they stay in that club. They have the crack, just like any group of lads. All the families there. The club's full, which again, it's good for the club. The club's full. Get the till chinging, and it's just a real good atmosphere. Real good atmosphere.
And plus, as well, in years to come, you've got birthday parties, engagement parties, weddings. There'll be all sorts going on.
I am just worried that they're enjoying it that much. The husbands might stop them playing. I think there's been a couple of hangovers that have needed some explaining.
Neil, thank you ever so much. Really appreciated your time this evening, and it's been great finding out all about what you've got going on at Rochdale Mayfield, and I'm still tipping you.
Cheers, pal.
I do find this whenever I start these interviews, the person on the other end is never 100% sure about how it's going to go, but then it warms up And by the end of the interview, I've just laid down a cracking 40 plus minutes of audio. And that's how I felt having a chat with Neil. How exciting is it at the moment with everything they've got going on at Rochdale Mayfield?
It's absolutely unbelievable. The other thing as well, Parker, I can understand it to a certain extent because you've tried hard to get that interview, haven't you?
Oh, we've been trying to get Rochdale Mayfield on for about 18 months now, haven't we, if I'm being truthful. But, it was worth the wait.
Yeah.
Very much worth the wait.
But as we'll find out a little bit later on when we do the roundup of the NCL, I mean, the team's doing really, really good. And, we've said in the past few weeks about them going under the radar a bit, but they're well on the radar now.
Yeah.
On and off the field by the sounds of things.
But one thing that really impressed me was that how much does it sound like they've embraced women's and girls rugby league? We heard about it. He's saying that they were getting the equivalent crowds of what the men's were getting with one of the fixtures, which is so pleasing to hear. And the fact as well that they've now got, I think it's 2 or 3 different age groups of girls now. They've got a platform. They're doing a lot more for developing rugby league in Rochdale than a lot of people have tried to do.
Oh yeah, certainly over the years. But the thing is, we've said about the women's game, how it's just gone leaps and bounds. It's a steam train, isn't it? In fact, no, it's an express train that's actually moving forward. I was watching some of it over the weekend on the television for the Leeds and Saints game. Again, another quality game, and there's a couple of others as well. The competition as a whole is just great to watch, and obviously you got a lot of sort of young girls and young ladies who were watching it who think, I wouldn't mind to go with that. And when you've got the likes of Rochdale, Mayfield, who are able to provide that platform to come and join and have a go. Don't get me wrong, they may go down and not enjoy it, but they still might enjoy that social side of things that we talk about, which the community game brings, and they may, sort of join in and support in other ways. We know the amount of sort of people it takes off the field to get any sort of team going. So if people are looking to sort of get in there and join in, then Rochdale are doing it the right way, aren't they?
Yeah, they're making people welcome. And I think that says a lot of things, because for me, and I'm going back to that interview that I did last week with Ash Goulding, when he said it's about the relationships that you make. Yeah. That's what he'd learnt, from when he first took the coaching job. And I think that's so important. It's about the relationships that you build. So sometimes it's not about what you do on the field, it's what you do off it together.
Yeah, because like we say, it's like the building blocks being put in place. And if you get those building blocks put in place, and make a firm foundation, then hopefully, what comes after is going to be sturdy, and you're going to get, sort of some longevity out of it. And sometimes you see, if you're meeting people, it may be, you're just going down there to support somebody. You may be going down there, to help with, training, going on with the bottles and different things like that. I mean, at least you're getting involved, they're getting the opportunity to do that, and you do make friends. You've seen it with you when you talk about the tours and what the lads are like on tour, and now they're going from different teams in that point of view. Yeah, they're still best mates, and they'll play rugby against each other, knock 7 belts out of each other. But they'll come off. It's all about the friendships and the bonds that are made. Certainly from a community point of view, there's no doubt about that.
And the other encouraging thing for me, Steve, is the fact that Vicky Molyneux gets a mention, who's one of the more high-profile women's players, a very experienced international player, one of Wigan's best, and who I didn't know that she was a Rochdale Mayfield lass.
No, me neither.
So great that she's getting involved and he's starting to bring through some of this burgeoning young talent that I'm sure will fly in years to come, and I'm hoping that many of them will have long rugby careers in front of them. But
Really?
fantastic to hear. And as I say, there's so many things that they're doing at the moment. They've got an excellent schools program that they've put into place where they've been, well, they keep putting it on social media. We've been in this school, we've been in that school, we've been in this school, and it's so impressive. And
how many times have we said that in the past? That's the grounding, isn't it? If you can catch under, and I bemoan, and I've said it again, I bemoan the demise of schools rugby league and schools competitions. It used to be really powerful at one stage, and it's now few and far between. And that's no disrespect to the
well, we do still have it. We have it in the cups. There's cups, and there's like because it's one of my things that I always look out for from a booking point of view. Is that I love covering the schools finals days that they have. I kind of get where you're coming from though, because we used to have England schools teams, didn't we, that were selected, and they used to go on tour to France, for example.
Well, the basic was you play for your school, you got chance of playing for your town, and then obviously you got chance of playing for England or whoever, whichever in that respect. And that I feel is lost because there's a chance there to again grab people to come and play, or then to carry on in the game in other way, shape or form, or whatever they go on to do in the rest of their life. If they're still, they remember those, going back to making memories and friendships, like we were saying, if they remember those and enjoy those sort of memories and relationships, if they may be in a business where they want to put back in, even if it's just local community, a few £100 for a poster at the side of the pitch for the season. It all builds up and it's needed.
Definitely. But great to hear everything that they've got going on at Rochdale Mayfield. It was definitely worth the wait.
It was, wasn't it?
Where shall we go next? Where do you want to take us next, to be honest?
I think it's talking about Rochdale Mayfield. I think we've got to go to the NCL scoreboard, haven't we?
Okay. So your results this past weekend from the Premier Division: Thatto Heath Crusaders 4, Rochdale Mayfield 48. Wow, what a result. I mean, they led by 22 points to nil at half time in this one. And it's quite funny because on Friday night I had the pleasure of being at the Lee Sports Village. I know, don't hold it against me, folks. But Phil Kinsella was doing the commentary for Radio Merseyside.
Yeah.
So I'm chatting to him because the coaches take forever to come out at Super League matches. So we're both in the in the press room at Lee after the game, waiting for the likes of Adrian Lamb, waiting for Daryl Powell to come and tell us all what their thoughts are. Did Daryl Powell
actually come out?
He did. But you're waiting till 10:30. For the League coach, and then 11:15 for the Warrington coach to come out. But he did. He faced the music, which is fair play to him. But anyway, myself and Phil had a bit of a conversation, and he goes, he says, I'm going watching a National Conference League game this weekend. He said, I'm going to Thatto Heath. They're playing against Rochdale Mayfield. And I said, Phil, you're going to have to look out for Rochdale Mayfield. I'm tipping them. So they're no longer under the radar. They're above Parky's radar, and in fact, we're sending sonar at them at the moment.
I think the phrase is they're now under the microscope.
I don't know about that, but this was so impressive. I've also seen the tries as well, because I think at Sky Rugby has been getting out there on Twitter. I think that's who it is anyway. Forgive me if I've got it wrong. I've only had limited chance to have a ganders at my internet over the last couple of days because I've been in York. But having sort of like seen some of the tries, they scored some excellent movements as well. So Metcalf scored a couple of tries. He's been called up by the England under-18s Community Lions, so that's a good sign for that particular team, which is going to be taking the field this coming weekend against Wales in under-18s level at 4:00 at Artillery Rugby Union Club. got to try and get that mentioned again, haven't I?
Impressed there. Impressed.
Couple of tries as well from Wayne English, who had over 150 games playing for Swinton in a long professional career. And Jordan Parr as well. He really has stepped up to the mark. I remember when I spoke to Sam Butterworth the other week, and he was saying that he's grabbed his chance with both hands.
Yeah.
Because his son, Lewis Butterworth, had been playing fullback at the start of the season. And although Lewis had picked up an injury, which had kept him out of the team, he's now back in the team, but can't claim fullback ahead of Jordan Parr, who is playing so well at the moment. So he scored 2 tries, kicked 5 goals. Then there was also Harry Sheridan scoring a couple of tries. So he's another fine young player of promise that is also in the under-18 selection. So, absolutely fantastic to see them put so many points on Thatto Heath. Admittedly, it was a weakened Thatto Heath, but you can only beat what's in front of you, can't you?
That's, well, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where we say, you've got to take your chances. And this was a chance, and they took it with both hands, haven't they?
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was really, really impressed. And because we said Thatto Heath, I mean, even though, they've been having a bit of a bit, for them, a busy season, you know what I mean? They're still ones who can always push end of season and get in the mix and be there and thereabouts. They know how to play the game at that end of the season. But Rochdale Airfield, really, really impressing. And for me, under the microscope.
It's a result in the Premier Division that has made things rather interesting. So
yes, it has.
Last year, if you remember, there was very much a top 6 and the rest. We've not got that this year. We've got a top 3 who all look capable of going on long runs, which at the moment is Hunslet Amateurs, Rochdale Mayfield and Loughborough Hornets. Even West Hull, who have been ultra consistent in previous years, can only find themselves in 4th position at the moment. They've won 6 and lost 3 of their 9 encounters. You've got Thatto Heath tucked in just behind them, 5 wins and 5 losses. Yeah. Then look at this behind them. And I often comment on, Divisions 1 and 2 for having teams which are tightly packed together. But you've got Siddle on 8 points, you've got York Acorn on 8 points, you've got Kells on 8 points, you've got Loch Lane on 7, and even the bottom 3, you've got Hull Dockers on 6 points, Wigan St Patrick's on 6 points, Lee Miners Rangers getting cut adrift a little bit with 2, but none of them are out of the mix really, and even a couple of wins for Lee Miners could lift them from that position, couldn't it?
Yeah. It's but those top 3, I totally agree with you. Hunslet, Rochdale and Loughborough. And to be fair, we were guilty, I suppose, of looking at the results, what Hunslet were putting together, and the scores, the actual scores they were putting. I'm thinking, no one's going to touch these. Nobody's going to touch these. But
now it has opened up, hasn't it? Which Hunslet have done the rest of the league a couple of favours in losing a couple.
Yeah.
Because it's made it a lot more interesting, hasn't it? And to be fair, Rochdale Mayfield still have a game in hand of both Hunslet and Loughborough, so they win that and they go outright top of top of the National Conference, don't they? How long has it been since they were top of the National Conference? I have to admit, I've asked him a question. I don't even know the answer.
Not a clue. But I'll tell you what, they've performed really, really well. It's going to be. The eyes are going to be on them because of that. And much the same as Hunslet knew they had a target on the back because obviously they're champions and obviously the merging, etc. Rochdale Mayfield could be the same, Now they're sort of put their head above the parapet. But, we'll see how they go. It's only good for the competition.
Oh, definitely, I completely agree. Yeah. Another thing that's good for the competition is in Division 1, you've got everybody seemingly able to beat everybody else. So you had Crossfields, who people's been looking at potentially as a relegation candidate, travelling over to play nearest and dearest Pilkington Rex on a Friday night and coming away with the win. And not just coming away with the win, but coming away with an excellent performance as well. They eventually won by 36 points to 16. It was 26-12 to Crossfields at half time. Our mate Danny Cassidy scoring a try and kicking 6 goals. I wonder whether he was playing centre this week or whether he was in a more favoured position where he could have a little bit more influence.
I've always said when I've seen him play, and he's played in that half-back role, and they give him a bit of freedom, he's so much better. But You can't argue with that, can you? And that is a very important. That for me, when I saw that fixture, because of where they both are in the league, that's one of those that Crossfields could kick on from that now, and Pilks have got to knuckle down. Of course, they could go into free fall.
Well, I mean, that result has dropped Pilks into the bottom three. We'll bring you up to date with the rest of the results. But just before I move on from that, I've got a feeling that Pilks have used the sixth fullback of the season due to injuries that they've been having in that position. It just seems you're almost cursed if you pull on that number one shirt for Pilks this year. And a quick mention as well for Jack Reed from Crossfield. So a few years ago, Jack Reed was one of the top National Conference League halfbacks. He was a guy that tried the professional game with Widnes when he was playing for them in the academy.
Yeah.
An outstanding player. Used to be a six and a cracking goal-kicking six as well. He's come back into the side at Crossfields, played 9 at the weekend, and had an absolute stormer by all accounts. So welcome back, Jack Reed. You've been missed, man.
Yeah.
Other results that happened around Division 1. Ince Rosebridge 22, Thornhill Trojans 22. It's the Trojans' first point of the season, and there was some controversy in this game from the referee's point of view. So the referee actually ruled this as a win for Ince Rosebridge by 24 points to 22. It ended up with both teams going to the referee saying, where have you got your extra 2 points from? Even Ince weren't happy that they'd won that game. So there was a big debate at what had happened. When the team sheet actually came through, it had 3 lots of notes on it. So you got the referee who put the score in the box, and then you'd ended up with like a note from the secretary of Thornhill Trojans and a note from the secretary of Ince Rosebridge saying that they've got this wrong. It should be 22 all.
Oh.
So it was 22 all. Try scored for the Bridge by Dennings, Holcroft, who grabbed 2, and Morrison, one of those Valentine's boys, kicking 3 goals. And then for Thornhill Trojans, Wilson scoring 2 tries, Llewellyn and Gibson also getting on the scoreboard. Gibson is such an important figure for them because he also kicks goals for Thornhill. And to be fair, they need to start performing for him because he's a top player, plays full-back, can play a little bit of stand-off as well. And, maybe this is the start of the rest of the season for Thornhill because they've been cut adrift and they are still probably going to be everybody's tip to go down from that division, but they've got to start now.
Yeah. Just to go back a second, we were on about Danny Cassidy. I've just checked. He was playing the halfbacks.
Oh, excellent.
Which doesn't surprise me.
If that thing started moving for him. Yeah,
I think he's much better there.
Now, the last game I was talking about was a close encounter, 22 points each. The next game we're going to talk about is a close encounter, 18 points each between Ulton Raiders and Stanningley. So Dibb, Stableford and Day scored the tries for the Raiders, with Walpole kicking 3 goals. And for Stanningley, Crossland, Simpson and Curry were the try scorers, Bent Selby with 3 goals. I've got to say, I've seen the Crossland try on video and he intercepts it. So there's a floaty pass which he misses it and it's a try at the other end. It's one of them where it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And Crossland snatches it up, does a little bit of a juggle, brings it in and speeds half the length of the field. So it's the glorious when you score those tries, and they can be so demoralising when they go against you. But nothing between these two sides. So those are the sides that are currently sitting in second and third spot respectively. Ulton Raiders with that draw and Stanningley with that draw, 18 points each. Into Division 2. Oh no, there's one other thing just to mention from Division 1. So Featherstone Lions were meant to be playing against West Bowling. West Bowling were very disappointed to report that Featherstone Lions had been on the phone to them, telling them that they couldn't raise the team. So there is probably going to be further investigations from the National Conference League into why that game didn't take place. It's unfortunate, and I understand that games are being played on bank holiday weekends, and sometimes people have a lot of things that they have on these particular weekends, but it's disappointing. And by the same token, when Featherstone Lions are saying that they can't raise a team, so I'm sure that there will be an investigation that takes place against
Well,
that.
yeah, because surely, Park, I mean, we spoke there about Thatterweath before, and you were saying that, obviously they have players missing, yeah. But obviously they've backfilled that with players from their A team, I would have thought. So, and from what I believe, you've got to have an A team to be in the NCL.
Well, that was the original. That was the original rule. There are a number of teams that don't fulfil that actually at this moment in time. So, for example, Wigan St Pat's doesn't have an A team.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pats, I don't mean to pick on you, but it's common knowledge. I think in community rugby league circles that they don't run an A team at the moment. I'll be honest, I can't remember reading Featherstone Lions results out too much in the Yorkshire men's this season. Maybe we'll come across it a little bit later on. But let the NCL do its investigation, and we'll report what happens once that has taken place. Into Division 2, and there was 3 games taking place on Saturday, and they were including one of those Dewsbury derbies, yes. So Dewsbury Moor Maroons, they were hosting Dewsbury Celtic, and Celtic pipped them. Now, there was nothing between these two sides at half time. 10 points to 6 in favour of Dewsbury Moor Maroons, who had tries from Clarkson, Adams and Anderson. Innocent kicking 2 goals. And Dewsbury Celtic, well, they turned it all round in the second half. Copley's having a fine season at half-back for them. He scored a try and kicked 4 goals. Other scores coming courtesy of Wilkins, Thornton and Johnson. 24-16 was the score. And this one made me sit up and take notice when you look at how Milford have gone when they've come into this Division 2. They went and walloped Normanton Knights by 38 points to 22. 2 tries from Ramsden, 2 from Balogan, and other tries scored by Brown, Rooney and Cummins. Best kicking 5 goals. For the Normanton Knights, there was a hat-trick from Wilson and a try from Jordan. 3 goals from the boot of Jacob Crossland, but they were second best after Milford hit the front. But I suppose curiously on that one, Normanton actually led at half-time by 16 points to 12. That's some second half from Milford.
It certainly is, yeah. It's... there's them and East Leeds who sort of looks as though they've put their big boy pants on and started to, sort of move on up, as it were.
Now, I know East Leeds haven't played, but I've got a bit of East Leeds news for you.
Oh, it's what we like.
Yeah. So, guess who's back? Back again.
No.
Guess who's back? Guess he's back. Guess who's back. Guess who's back.
It's not the person who I saw on Twitter presenting a shirt the other day.
It's none other than Rob Roberts.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was Rob Roberts.
Yeah, he's back, and I'm really pleased about this. Because Rob, he is a guy that I know and got to know fairly well at one point when he was a player. Yeah. But he's such a good bloke. I'm really pleased that he's back in the coaching dugout of East Leeds. They could become a completely different sort of entity now for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. And if you remember, Parker, we do this every week. I say, if you remember, every single week, God knows how many times. But
having said this is where the continuity comes in, isn't it? So we do love our new listeners, but you also know you've got a whole back catalogue to catch up with. If you've got that amount of time.
Yeah, get into it, listen to about how we have gone on about East Leeds.
To be fair, I'd book a week off work now. I'd go and listen to the lot. You'll be fully up to speed with what me and Ste have been chatting about for years.
But we mentioned, if you remember, I went watching East Leeds against Woolston, and I remember they played well, but obviously they only turned up with just enough players. They got beat, but they put on a good performance, in that sort of conditions. And I was speaking to the coaching staff who were there at the time, and they mentioned back then that they were trying to get Bob Roberts back involved because it was, there was a lot of players that had left and gone, Now, whether it was a matter of because Bob wasn't there, I don't know. But it'd be interesting to see if now he's back, whether some of those players will come back and. But yeah, I'm made up for them. That's a good bit of news.
I feel like I should start singing Eminem again like I did before, but no, I'm not going to subject anybody's ears to that sort of performance once again. But welcome back to Rob Roberts. East Leaders miss you. And to be honest, the National Conference Leaguers miss you too. Right. So Milford getting on the right side of the ledger. Another team on the right side of the ledger who are flying under the radar, but are we going to lift them under the microscope? This is Shawcross Sharks. Again, they were promoted via the playoff route at the end of last season, weren't they? And they are flying at the moment in this competition. They've gone over to Wigan St Jude's and beaten them by 28 points to 18 with tries from Neagle, Zach Parkinson, who scored 2, and Baines and Wakenshaw with their other tries. Deck Tomlinson kicking 4 goals. Matthews, Silcock, Turner and Roberts scoring for Wigan St Jude's. Doug Dale only able to add 1 goal. It was 10-all at half time. But Shawcross, that's a great win for them. It now puts them in 4th position outright with 2 games in hand of everybody above them. They win both of those games. They go top of the division, don't they? That's how close it is. I mean, there's no game this weekend for Waterhead, who, they've been the long-time leaders of the comp, haven't they? Dewsbury Moor Maroons are having another excellent season, bar that little loss against Dewsbury Celtic. Woolston Rovers, well, again, they look a very capable side, don't they? That can score points. It's a case of trying to keep the opposition from scoring, I think, as far as they're concerned. And then you've got Shawcross Sharks, who have been in a huge number of close games, but have come the right side of the ledger in all of them. Yeah. They've only lost 1 game this year.
That's really surprising. We did mention, that some of the results that they were getting. We were thinking, and I think what it is when you get a team that are winning, but they're not winning by big margins. You don't dismiss them. You tend to look at the guys who are, putting the big points differences in, and they're getting up to the top of the table, and you're thinking, oh, hang on, these are ones, but. A win's a win, and it's 2 points, isn't it?
But I suppose in another way, we should be looking at these perhaps a little bit more, shouldn't we? Because
I totally agree. Yeah,
they're used to then being in close encounters, which can gives you an awful lot of a boost. So, say like you've been running away with every game by 40 points.
Yeah.
When you've suddenly got to get in an arm wrestle at risk of sounding like a Terry O'Connor here or a Baz McDermott, you've got to start grinding things out, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah. It's. And they're used to it. And if you're not used to that...
it's difficult to fall into that sort of mindset,
it's mind games, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
And then Lees keep doing it ever since I've not been involved. Look at him there now. Outright second in Division 3 on 16 points. They're actually just, 50 points worse off. That's the point difference between them and top of the table, Oldham St Anne's. They played Driglington. It was a bit like BBC Two, where we played the repeats because they played against Driglington last week.
We mentioned that, didn't we?
And we're over there. Yeah. And I wondered how this one would go. Well, it was really close at half-time, 4 points each. Drigg scoring tries from Hunter and Makinson in the end. But Lee East getting the better of it at the final score with 18-8. The score line. Cam Clark scoring a couple of tries, Aboa guy getting the other, and then there was a try for Bawley. So Andrew Ball, it's great to see him back in the East first team and back scoring tries. I know that his dad's delighted that he's back, that's for sure. I was chatting to him the other week when they played against Ellenborough, because at that time he'd just come back into training and was just starting to get involved again and was playing in the game previous where I think, if I'm not mistaken, Lee East beat Oral St James's in the Cup. And he was saying, I hope that he gets the opportunity, Andrew, and he grasps it and he goes forward. Well, it certainly seems like he has done. Yeah. And he's come up with one of those typical cheeky number 9 tries that he scores so well. So they've won that one by 18 points to 8, which, as I said, moves them up to outright second. But again, really interesting top 4 in particular in Division 3. Oldham St Anne's up there, Lee East in second, Ellenborough Rangers and Millham We expected Beverley to be up there, but they don't seem to have come up and quite adjusted. They had a few really good results early on, but seem to have lost a few games as well. So, but they're the best of the rest, just ahead of point difference on Eastmoor Dragons. And then you've got Bentley, Driglington, Hensingham and Seaton Rangers sitting bottom of the third division. So that's your National Conference League roundup of what happens. What's coming up this weekend though? Well, in the Premier Division, Hull Dockers host Wigan St Pat's. Hunslet Amateurs host West Hull. That's a crackerjack of a game, isn't it?
We've gone from Dewsbury to Hull.
Kells, they host Siddle. Loch Lane jump over the Pennines to play against Leek Miners Rangers. York Acorn, who are a team that is really on the up, they have to face Rochdale Mayfield. That's going to be a really interesting one for me to have a look at what the results is at that one come full time. And Thatto Heath Crusaders, well, they have a chance of jumping back on the horse up against that third place team, Loughborough Hornets, who will also be looking to get a good result away from home. In Division 1, you've got Clotface Miners hosting Egremont Rangers, Heworth hosting Ulton Raiders, Crossfields go over to Skirler, Pilkington Rex head over to Stanningley. You've got Featherstone Lions, who are due to travel over to Thornhill Trojans, and West Bowling due to host Ince Rose Bridge. In Division 2, you've got Barrow Island against Dewsbury Celtic, Milford against Shawcross Sharks, Normanton Knights host East Leeds, so there's a chance we could be talking about a Rob Roberts inspired performance there. Saddleworth Rangers, meanwhile, they're at home against Myton Warriors. Waterhead Warriors have an intriguing game on the cards against Dewsbury Moor Maroons.
Top of the table, that one.
And there's a bit of a local derby happening in Woolston as Woolston Rovers host Wigan at St Jude's. That's a good one as well.
It is, and I was looking at that one. I must admit, I was looking at Woolston against Wigan St Jude's, and also possibly, I don't know, Clockface Miners versus Egremont Rangers.
Oh, I tell you what, there's two crackers there. Two really good games. And then from Division 3, Lee East host Eastmoor Dragons in the only fixture from that division. So lots to come this weekend in the National Conference League. Where to next, Steve?
Wherever you want to go, Parky.
Right, well, in that case, can I backtrack us a little bit?
Yep.
And go over to what happened in the Men's President Cup. So it was the last games of the competition played over at Oral St James, another one of our favourite venues.
Yeah, we like it there.
And that was on last Wednesday evening. So by the miracle that is, I found myself in two places at once, because if you was listening, I would have been presenting this show last Wednesday, and on the same night I was over at Oral St James. It's amazing what you can do with a pre-record.
Talented,
isn't it?
You're a talented man.
No, it's a pre-record. It's a pre-record. I'll tell you. So in the first game, it was Great Britain Police taking on the Great Britain Teachers. This was the best of the rest, if you like. So both of these sides haven't really fired so far in this competition, although I have to say the Great Britain Police side was quite unlucky when they came up against the England University side a couple of weeks ago and just lost out by 27 points to 20. How were they going to fare against the Teachers? Well, I was there, and it was the Great Britain Police winger Jack Morrison who was the hero. He scored 4 tries as the Police, who were 10-6 behind after 16 minutes, cruised to a comfortable victory that could have been even more emphatic. Morrison opened the scoring on 8 minutes when fullback John O'Donnell made initial inroads from a 20-metre restart. Scott Leatherbarrow booted the first of his 5 goals. The Teachers then hit back with quick-fire tries by Nathan Taylor after some excellent work by Matt Thompson and Dan Douglas. He was a mighty front-row effort. Now, I've got to say, getting to that ground at Oral proved quite difficult midweek, and there's quite a bit of a reason for this, because they've ended up doing plenty of roadworks near the ground. Okay, but as a result, what it did mean is that there was a few players missing who could only end up going on the bench. So Teachers, I think 3 players who ended up being late, and they only started off the bench. And even the Great Britain Police had 2 players who were late as well.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get there on time either. So they ended up being on the bench. So what it did mean is that I don't think Dan Douglas was actually meant to start. So he got the starting slot at prop. And he got a try, to be fair, for the Teachers. Rob Marsh converted the second score to open that 10-6 advantage, but Rob Froggatt swung the lead back to the police with a touchdown on 19 minutes, and then Morrison claimed an 80-metre solo effort. So this came after, it looked like a decent kick actually, that came out to the wing, and the two wingers contested it, and Morrison came up with it. And he looked like he was running through treacle for about 3 steps, and then suddenly the turbo blasters kicked in, and off he went. And I'm telling you, I haven't seen many quicker players, but he just needed that little bit of kickstart before he got going. I mean, it's still...
Which way were they playing? Were they playing away from the houses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
Because that's just slightly downhill, isn't it?
Oh, he was flying down the hill, though,
yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah. Absolutely
brilliant try. And then he sauntered in for his hat-trick courtesy of Tommy Gallagher's feed. That established a 22 points to 10 half-time advantage. Adam Koopman maintained the momentum 10 minutes after the restart, and victory was wrapped up with Morrison's 4th touchdown, which owed much to a fine pass from Oral St James's own Jack Davis. So he flung this superb pass out. Not kidding, he stood just to the right-hand side of the post, and he spins this pass out, which hits, I think it was O'Donnell, who then fed it out to the winger Morrison. It was a glorious move, to be honest. Scored out wide. And then it seemed like the police, they put the cue on the rack. 50 minutes in, they're leading 34 points to 10. They could really have gone on and put a statement victory out here.
Yeah.
But they thought, you know what, we've done enough here. So they put the cue on the rack. To be fair, the teachers didn't let go. They sort of grabbed it and ran with it, and scored a try themselves after 62 minutes. Jacob Brown intercepting and going over from halfway. That was also converted as well by Marsh. Final score, Great Britain Police 34, Great Britain Teachers 16. So depending on your thought process, perhaps there was disappointment for both teams, really. Yeah. Afterwards, I caught up with the Great Britain Police head coach, Bob Marsden, and this is what we had to say. I'm pleased to be joined once again by Bob Marsden. We're speaking in the aftermath of a success this time round, so it was ever so close to victory last time out. Does this feel better?
It's got to do, because it's a win. Regardless of the performance, to be honest, I shouldn't say we struggled, we made it hard work, if that's the word for it. One try away at the students or one try and a drop goal. This week, to be honest, I think mentality of the lads was a massive improvement coming out, but then I think they thought after probably 50 minutes, game one, let's just switch off and go away from the game plan, etc. So a little bit frustrated, but you've got to be happy because it's a win, isn't it?
I've got to say though, that performance of your winger, Jack Morrison, what an outstanding performance. I mean, 4 tries.
Actually, yes, because Jack played probably 12 months ago or a little bit more than that. He's had work commitments, 1 or 2 things. So we've called him back in. He's come back in today, straight back in, and actually I'm very impressed with him. So it's sort of another little probably tick in the box, and another one half on the team sheet for the toy squad, which we've got to name in a week's time. So he's now put himself in the frame, really. So, very good, really impressed.
And it was a right mixture of finishes as well, wasn't it? He had a couple of long range ones. There was one where he popped up on the shoulder of John O'Donnell after he split the defence from a 20-metre tap, and it was a real range, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree with also what probably, I suppose it's like anything, you look at different aspects, but also the 3 or 4 sort of, let's say, high balls, which he took very, very well. So he's got his sun in your eyes, and he took them very well. Be it one of them, I think, were maybe stolen or released, but out of that, he took it very well. The tries were taken well, actually, because he actually did open his legs, so he still had a little bit of work to do. So yeah, very good.
It's funny because I've just spoken to Elliot Licku from the teachers, and we were both on the touchline at the point where he got away for the second try, and it looked like he was trying to get going, and then suddenly he'd gone.
Yeah. I won't talk too late, he just walked past me now, so no, but he's overall impressed really, and 1 or 2 players again have come in. Before kick-off, obviously the kick-off we delayed a little bit. 1 or 2 players have walked straight out, right onto the pitch. So not the best preparation, but you've got to work with things. But positive, you know what I mean? You can't come away 30 to score 30 odd, upper in second half, win the second half. So pretty impressed, yeah.
I know last time we spoke you were talking about the tour and it sounded so exciting. So the fact that you're just a week away from announcing the squad, that's even better, is it?
It's sort of, it brings everybody together. The keenness should be there because you're thinking, well, to be honest, we've probably got a squad of 30. We've had 18 today. So there's lots of sort of options, but it will come out and it perhaps you will have a few harsh words with one or two who say, well, listen. So we're all giddy. We're all giddy about the tour. We'll announce it sort of the tour part, and what we're going to do, we've discussed it to leave maybe a couple of spots open. So you're sort of keeping everybody on the toes. Instead of naming the 2021, we might do 18. Leave the option open for maybe you might get an injury or with one or two new players even now coming on board who are played a bit of professional rugby. So, so we're going to leave the doors open a little bit, but probably 17, 18 we're there or thereabouts. So it's exciting, yeah, can't wait.
Bob, I look forward to catching up with you again in future, to tell me all about how this tour went. I can't wait to find out. And I have to admit, here's where I wish that I could sneak in a suitcase somewhere.
Well, perhaps you're better off not, but he's going to have to, You're not tours a tour, aren't there? But there'll be some stories to tell, and no doubt it's something where, gosh, if somebody said I'm going to tour Australia national team, oh blimey, you bite their hands off, and what an occasion, and we will make it a special occasion, so a memory worth saving, yeah.
Thank you so much. Bob Marsden there, and I had to ask him about the performance of his winger Morrison scoring those 4 tries, because he really impressed me. I don't think I've seen Morrison play before, and you heard Bob there saying about he'd just come into his thoughts again and had nearly played himself onto this tour that they're going to be having at the back end of the season when they go to Australia. So really interesting, and you could tell that he wasn't, although he was happy with the win, he wasn't happy with the way that he kind of slackened off. Yeah. And I kind of agree with him.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit disappointing.
Well, we've heard that from coaches in the past, haven't we? You know, where you get, because I've always said, well, how can you be disappointed about a win? But obviously, from a performance point of view, like we were saying just before, if you're going to come up against teams and it's going to be a close match, are you physically and mentally, sort of prepared for those types of happenings?
Now, for every winner, there is also someone who's been defeated. And stepping up from the Great Britain teachers to do media duties was none other than their skipper, Elliot Liku. Okay, I'm joined by Elliot Liku. Elliot, we've just been in the aftermath of the 3rd President's Cup game involving the teachers. Unfortunately, another loss. What did you make of the game?
Game of 2 hours, really, because I think we were in it. First 20 minutes, we really barred up and really got stuck into it. And I think our own mistakes, and then the police kind of capitalising on that. They're a really solid team, the police. So giving them chances after chances is really going to hurt us, to be honest.
And to be fair as well, I mean, they got Jack Morrison, who had an absolute stormer at wing. He scored 4 tries.
Honestly, I didn't realise. I thought he's going to be quick, but I didn't realise how quick he was until the first. I think we mentioned it on the sideline after the first 2 or 3 strides. He was just gone. Yeah,
because he looked like he was going to struggle to get going, and then suddenly, zoom, he's gone.
He's gone. So yeah, it was like I say. I think things like that, they capitalised on it more than what we did in terms of we were in good position. I think they just kind of let ourselves down a little bit.
Tell me a little bit about the President's Cup campaign this year. I suppose disappointed compared with last year?
I would say so, yeah, because I think in terms of the results, yeah, quite disappointing, but I think we've developed over the 3 games. I think the students' game was a hard game, really, really tough in terms of they were quicker, faster. But then we started to build in, and I think the Armed Forces game again built into it really good. And then finally today's game, we've improved every week. It's just been a shame that we've not just got into kind of an 80-minute performance.
And also as well, I suppose, kicking off first thing is always a mad rush on a school night.
Always is a mad rush. I'm not too bad, to be fair, because I only live quite local and just down the road in Warrington, but some of them, like I say, the Yorkshire boys are doing full days at work and then travelling down. So, like I said, the commitment in terms of that front turn up's been really good.
I know when we spoke last year, you were just getting into rugby league again, weren't you, after a few years out?
Yes, so I'd been obviously playing rugby union, and kind of during COVID I thought I want to get back playing rugby league again. So back over to where I live I'm in Warrington now, so I'm over at Crossfields, which is really, really good and really enjoying it.
Which came first though, getting to represent Crossfields or getting to represent the teachers?
It was Crossfields first.
Oh, was it? Right.
Yeah, so it was Crossfields first, and then we had our first game after COVID over in Colwyn Bay, which was really nice, and it was, like I say, something completely different, because in terms of playing rep rugby as an amateur, it's been nice to be able to pull on the GB shirt and represent my country through the profession that I do day to day.
And everybody's the same, aren't they? You know, you mentioned that commitment as well before.
Yeah, and that's been one of the big things in terms of we only train once a week, and we've struggled obviously to get numbers because as teachers we have lives and we've got things to do. So it's been, considering we've turned up, we've give everything a good go, we've improved every week. It can't ask more from the lads.
And to be fair, when this competition is ending, it's probably your busiest time when it's all GCSEs.
Yes, it's mad as well, because we're all getting into, like say, year 11 now. We're just starting the GCSEs. They've had, I'd say I'm a maths teacher, so they've done the first maths exam, and it's just one thing after another. But we do it because we love rugby league.
Elliot, commiserations on today, but I'm sure that you're going to go forward and have many more of these sort of nights and hopefully be on the right side of the ledger.
Definitely. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for talking to me.
Great to chat to Elliot. He's a bit of a natural, I think, when you put a microphone in front of him. He said to me, he sent me a message about 40 minutes after that interview saying, Dave, when's that going out? My wife doesn't believe that I've done a media interview. But no, a great fella. He's a lad that I've known for a few years anyway. But he'd gone away from playing rugby league. He'd gone concentrating on his job as a maths teacher.
Yeah.
And he got enticed back to play.
That doesn't add up though, does it?
Oh, well, certainly if you'd seen some of the things on that team sheet, they didn't add up when I was trying to get names against numbers and stuff. But that's why I made the point of explaining the fact that they had a few players who only turned up last minute.
Yeah.
Perhaps they were in detention.
Yep, could have been.
Anyway, moving on. You know, it's great to hear that Elliot has rediscovered his zest for rugby league. And he's a player that I get the feeling really enjoys getting the chance to represent Great Britain teachers. It really means something to him now, and you know, fair play, because he's a decent player, a decent fella.
In order.
So after that, well, it was only the main event. So it was England universities taking on the UK Armed Forces. Traditionally, this is an encounter that decides where the President's Cup is going to go, and this year it went the way of the England universities by 32 points to 12. So Luke Phoenix, he opened the students' account on 10 minutes off Joe Wardle's superb pass. And this was a superb pass, by the way. It was a flick out of the back of his hand. So if you think about, you know, as a Saints fan, you got used to seeing Jamie Lyon for a season with his flick pass. It was a similar sort of effort to that.
Matt Gidley was the other one. In fact, I think Matt Gidley was the man who invented it. And
see, I don't remember the Matt Gidley times. Yeah. Perhaps I'd fallen out with rugby league at that point. I don't know. I wasn't watching Super League, a lot of Super League at that time with Matt Gidley playing. I remember Kurt Gidley playing for Warrington and losing all his pace after one season.
I thought he was going to say losing all his pay after one season.
No, although I believe there's other players that may have also done that, but that's all alleged, of course. Back to this game, and after that beautiful pass from Joe Wardle, Matty Rudd's attempted touchline conversion, that drifted wide. The Forces then went in front 13 minutes later. Jake Boardman adding the extras to a certain Kieran Prescott's try. Now, since I had that word in his shell about not scoring, I think he's gone and scored about 8 tries in the game since. So, you know,
you're taking credit for that.
I'm taking credit for it. You know, it's nothing to do with your electric pace or you know, great versatility and elusiveness. By the way, Kieran, mate, I'm having it down to the fact that I had that little chat with you. But the students, they went to the break 14-6 ahead, courtesy of outstanding solo scores by Wardill and Jack Cherry, the first of which Rudd improved. I've got to say the Cherry one in particular, you could say the cherry on top of the cake, but I'm not going to go there with another terrible pun. So instead, what I do want to talk about is the build up to that try. So it was Charlie McCurry run a super line as a second rower, which took him straight past his opposite number, who'd had such a good game tackling him either side of that, to be fair. So he zooms through, realises he's got Jack Cherry screaming up on his outside, and to be fair to Cherry, he's 6'7", so you can't miss him.
Yeah.
He's 6'7", he plays wing and fullback. So he gives him the ball, and the guy hardly has to break sweat to break and carry on the movement. He's that quick, and he's got that long legs, that motors with him. So that was a great try, to be honest. So Rudd converted one of those, 14 points to 6 at half time, and that lead was extended just after the start of the second half. Jake Lightoller, who was very influential as loose forward for the students, he crossed by the side of the post, and that was a popular try. He's just finished university. Now, he's just finished, I think it's a master's course, so he's been there 6 years.
Yeah.
And this was his debut playing for the England universities.
Really?
Because unfortunately, he's always been injured at the time of year when they've been picking these squads.
Yeah.
So for the last few years, he's been head and shoulders one of the top players in the university's games. But he's never had the chance to pull on an England shirt until now. And, it was worth the wait. The way that everybody celebrated with him was absolutely phenomenal. It was so good, that. And as the hour beckoned, Charlie McCurry, he got the better of his opposite number again, crashing through, and the conversion.
So Charlie McCurry from Latchford.
From Latchford Albion, the one and the same. Also goes to university, I think it's Leicester.
Is he?
Yeah, so he's a busy man. Sort of transporting his way between Leicester and Warrington every single week.
Wow.
And playing for Latchford Albion like he does, and playing at such a high standard too. Because he's another one that, I met him a few years ago playing for the England Community Lions, and I've followed his progress since. And it's great to see, he's a very, very promising second rower. So, if you're a League One club or a Championship club, you're looking at second rowers, you can't go much difference. But
you're going to have Martin Ellis on your case if you keep doing this.
Let him play, first of all, for his country, and let him play for Latchford till the end of the season. But I swear he's good enough for that level. He could step up as far as I'm concerned. Now, Joe Thresh, he hit back for the UK Armed Forces as the game went into the last 20 minutes, racing 60 metres after a student's fumble. Boardman improved, but the students had the last word, and a finely timed kick by captain Jordan Bull gave Phoenix the chance to notch his second try. Now, case in point, Jordan Bull is a prop forward. How often are prop forwards allowed to kick the ball or get the boot anywhere near a ball? But I've got to say, what a pinpoint kick. So he gets this on the last, and everybody's going, "Oh no, Jordan, what are you doing with this ball on the last? Don't put an aimless kick in." And it is the most pinpoint grubber kick that I have seen to the corner this season. Pinpoint, straight behind the defence. He didn't have time to turn, and Phoenix just raced through to touchdown. Really good. Rudd added the extras to that. It made it 32 points to 12, and deserved victory as well for the England universities. They were fantastic. So England next go into battle against the prison service. That's on Wednesday the 7th of June. And that's going to be ahead of when they take part in the Student Rugby League Four Nations, which comes in July. So it's a busy time for Student Rugby League still, and representing the country. You know what I want to do though? I want to give you some reaction, because afterwards I caught up with the two guys who are at the forefront of both of those teams. And we'll start first of all with some winning reaction from Kevin Dainton from the England universities. Okay, I'm joined by Kevin Dainton. Kevin, congratulations, you won the President's Cup. What a performance from the lads.
Yeah, they've done themselves proud. I'm a very proud man this moment in time, but it's all about the lads. You know me, Dave. It's all about them lads, and them lads come from all over the country to come to training in Sheffield. We got some together in February, and they've gone. You've seen the performance they've put in tonight. I'm so proud of them.
And there's a fantastic spread of different universities involved in the squad this year, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's nearly a split from south and north, really, to be fair. We've got lads coming from Warwick, down from London, up north from Northumbria, of course. They're all over the place, but now they're all best mates, the comrades. That's what they are.
Take us through this game, because I mean, like, you started off really, really strongly, but it could have all gone wrong when you had that bad injury right at the start.
Yeah, we was down to one fit lad on the bench in the end, to be fair, but that's what these kids do for each other. They put their bodies on the line. They knew how much it meant for them. I'm wishing Nathan well. We're going to check up on Nathan now. We went off early. He's gone off to hospital. Then we lost Joe Wardell, and then we lost another concussion, Adam Lavin with another concussion, but they stuck in. They were so resilient. We gave them 4 words to put into it. It was confident, composure, positivity and resilience, and I thought they showed everything in that.
That was such a tough game. I mean, we were talking off really there about the standard of it. It was really high standard, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I don't like to do comparisons really, but that would have held its own certainly in Championship 1, maybe Championship level tonight. I thought so. I thought the endeavour on both sides was amazing. It was amazing. I wasn't comfortable, not even in minute 78. I wasn't comfortable because I know how good the armed forces are. But I thought our defence tonight was absolutely outstanding.
And to be fair as well, Kevin, I mean, like, you've now seen your guys over 3 games. Would you say that the performance levels lifted each game?
Very much so. What we've got to do, we pick a 26-man squad, Dave, and now we have had 26 lads play the game in the 3 matches. So that's what we do, we spread the game time out. Everybody's took the responsibility of the role they need to do, and consequently we're looking for improvement, because we've got a big trophy to go for the 4 Nations yet. So what we do now, in 2 weeks we play the prison service, where again we'll have another look at the other players. Then we, as a staff, we trim our squad to 20, and then we go down to Wales to play in the 4 Nations. It's all about development. It's all about raising the profile of the university game, and consequently on the back of that, it's all about them putting performances like you saw tonight.
I think as well, you know, the other side of that is that I've had the pleasure of covering the last couple of Bucks Wednesdays, and the standard that is now at university level is, I don't know whether it's ever been higher.
No, I agree. Oh, got me wrong, there's been some fantastic players in the past who have gone on to make some good money in the Championship, but they're making a living out of the game. But what I've got to think of now is that there is more high-level performers in the university game now. You had 1 or 2 who were very, very good players. I think some of the Championship and Championship 1 coaches will be looking at the video.
But I mean, like, you got so many players playing well as a unit. You must have been pleased with that unity that was involved within that squad.
That's the biggest win for me. The trophies is for the players, but for me to see we build teams, and that's what my job is, to build a team where they all want to play for each other, and to see the camaraderie in there, where you've got a kid from a Southern University in London and a kid from Northumbria in there, arms around each other. They've known each other for 12 weeks, celebrating team performance. You know what team sport does for each other, mate, don't you? You do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I hope you can feel the passion in my voice, because I'm so passionate about this job and what I do.
And you know, it suits you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Is that made me look?
It's meant to be a compliment, that, you know, right, because of your enthusiasm level.
Yeah. I want you to show me a coach with a good head of hair, because I won't see one, I tell you.
Just one last thing, and it's more to do with, I know as a coach you can't pick out individuals because you look at the whole thing, and to be honest, even me looking at that game, I'd normally be looking at individuals.
Yeah.
I can't pick individuals out either.
Because we're not about individuals, Dave, our team. We're about a team. You do your job. You do your job, and then all of a sudden now Jigsaw comes together. You've got Jack Cherry on the wing defusing 30 bombs in a game, probably today. It seemed like that anyway. But you've got Jake Lightower in the middle of the park, Jordan Bull, and everybody. I'm going to name them because everybody tackled, everybody carried, everybody did stuff for each other. Falling on loose balls. You can't really coach that. You try to get it into them and they get it in themselves.
It's will and want, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so proud. But one last thing before I go, I'd just like to thank all the staff. It ain't just about me. The staff are there. We've got people who come around from all over the country to be the part of the staff, give up the time, travel
I've clocked up nigh on 1,000 miles doing this programme this year, but I don't regret 1 mile of it, because as you can see, people around us are smiling and taking the mickey out of us, aren't they?
And you've got more mileage to come, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh yes, yeah. I'm very fortunate to be part of this lovely game of ours. I love rugby league, like you do, Dave. I love rugby league. It's my life, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Understandably there, Kevin, really pleased with that victory, and made up that they've saved the best performance for last in the tournament.
Well, that's the right way to do things, isn't it? You know what I mean? I mean, if we were talking there about before about going into close matches. If you're not used to that sort of thing, it's much the same as from a tournament perspective. You grow into the competition, don't you? And so hopefully you would wish that you can actually do that and get your best game right there up in the final, as it were. And yeah, hat off to them.
Yeah, and he was quick to sort of give thanks to a lot of people, because he said it's not just down to him, he's just the head of the organisation for at this time. He paid credit to all the rest of the staff that have given up, and the amount of mileage that has been covered, because they've been having all their training sessions in Sheffield on Saturday mornings, and players coming from all different corners of the UK, coming from universities to take part in that, and coming from digs elsewhere in the country.
Well, not just that. I totally agree with that. But the Presidents' Cup competition as a whole, I mean, because if you look at that scenario, it's similar with a lot of the teams, isn't it? So it must be one of the competitions that, I mean, doesn't get really enough press, as it were. But the amount of, sort of effort and logistics in and around it from everybody is phenomenal.
The commitment is absolutely fantastic, and that's why I wanted to make mention of the traffic, because that's just the last thing that can be chucked in your way.
Yeah.
Phenomenal efforts all round. But before we leave the President's Cup for another year, I want to bring you another interview, this with Gary Dunn, who later in the year is stepping down from the Armed Forces and returning to Civvy Street. We're in the aftermath of the final game of the President's Cup. Unfortunately, a defeat for your boys. What did you make of it?
Unfortunately, defeat. I thought the best team won on the night, though. Totally honest, I thought the students played real well as a team. I think that's their best performance of the comp. I thought the middles played really well and probably dominated us slightly up front, which allowed them to get on the front foot.
They were very consistent, weren't they?
Really good, yeah. I even said when I chatted to both teams after the game that I thought their middles dominated. And I won't say they kicked well, but a few of the kicks bounced the right way for them, which then ultimately put us under pressure again. And then they built on the back of that and asked questions and put us to the pump.
I mean, to be fair, you know it's not going to be a night when a prop forward's grubbering through on the last tackle and a winger scoring at the corner, is it?
Yeah, to be fair to prop forward, it was a good kick, wasn't it?
It was.
No, you're right, yeah. But I think at that point, the game was probably gone anyway later on. I think we were probably pushing it a little bit. Look, we learnt a lot tonight. The lads learnt a lot. Unfortunately, this will be a totally different team next year for us, as it is every year. People are moving on from the forces. Lads who've played tonight have played the last game, but lads also who've played tonight have played the first game. So it's good, and the competition every year is an enjoyable thing to be part of.
It felt like a very different side than the one that you'd named in the last game.
Yeah, availability. People away on deployment, people at sea. That's the nature of the job we're in, that we have who's available at the time. We have a larger squad because of that, but a few of the lads that have been involved today, that's the first time, like I said, they've been involved in a UK Armed Forces combined service setup, so bodes well for the future. But yeah, it's tough when you have to try and gel a new team every time you're together.
I've got to say though, picking out a couple of performances from your side, Kieran Prescott, I know he's someone that I know quite well anyway, but I thought he was phenomenal at the back. He got you out of trouble so many times and just gets on his bike really quick, doesn't he?
Well, Kieran's Kieran, and he's got great feet. He's very evasive, and if we'd have got on the back of a couple of his breaks a bit more, we might have had some more success. While we're picking players out, Ewan Makinson, who played hooker for us, I'd love to see his tackle stats.
He was tireless, wasn't he?
Unbelievable. And then on the back of his quality defence, he's then jumping out, asking questions, and making breaks from 9. I thought he was outstanding. I thought he was our best player. But yeah, that's his first involvement in a UK Armed Forces shirt.
So that's what the excitement is, isn't it? Because then you've got him, and he's probably going to be around for a few years now, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I hope so. He's a young lad, just joined the RAF, going through his technical training, and he's just done some of his qualifications over at RAF Coningsby, and he is a quality lad, and he's got his head screwed on as well.
And as well, just before we go, that second try what he scored was an absolute cracker. I didn't get the name of the lad who scored it though. So I think it was the winger, number 2.
Oh yeah. Oh, so Joe Thresh. Yeah.
Thresh, yeah.
He's another young RAF lad. He's played in all 3 fixtures this year for the UK Armed Forces team. Another young talented lad who's full of it.
Is he another guy that's coming on then?
Yeah, he definitely is. Yeah, so he's played a couple of RAF first team fixtures, and he's shown real potential. Hence him being in this squad. We're excited to see what he does in the future, and he's not just a winger.
I know from our chat previously that obviously you're stepping down from the Armed Forces a little bit later on in the year. I think you leave it in rude health, don't you? The rugby league side.
Yeah. There's always reticence to leave something that you love so much, whether it be within the UK Armed Forces setup or the RAF Rugby League setup. It's something that I'll miss when I leave the service later this year, and it's been a massive part of what's kept me in the service so long. Sport is a big part of service life, as it is with university life. The lads that have won tonight, it's a big part of their, and it keeps us together. It bonds us together.
And I love this President's Cup. I think it's long may it continue.
Very much so. Yeah, it gives what it gives is a target for UCAF to be in. It gives the lads who batter each other every September when it's our inter-service competition. It gives them another step to go to. And yeah, long may it continue. I support it all.
Gary, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. A proud man despite defeat.
Yeah, he's done a good job, hasn't he? I mean, it would have been great to go out on the high with a win, but I mean, all you can do is put your best effort in, isn't it, at the end of the day? And he's proud to have done that.
And in a way, because of the way that the calendar works for rugby league in the Armed Forces, this President's Cup almost comes at the end of everything, because they start building again for September when they have the inter-forces competition, which is always what a lot of personnel look forward to when you get the Army, Navy and the Air Force playing against each other.
Derby matches, aren't they?
Real derby matches.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting to hear about how they do the sort of splitting up when they come to try and decide teams. So they have like, I think certainly the Navy, they split the country in 2, depending on where you're based.
Yeah.
And then they try and select almost like a state of origin type thing and have a state of origin game to decide who makes up the Navy side for the following campaign. So it's always fascinating, and Armed Forces Rugby League is always up against the backdrop of what's going on out in the wider world, where guys can be deployed elsewhere in the world on missions and on different deployments and things. So it always amazes me. We talk about logistics. There's a lot of logistics in Armed Forces Rugby League as well, isn't there?
Very much.
So but great once again for us to get the opportunity to cover the President's Cup for this year. Unfortunately, our coverage for the women's version of the President's Cup hasn't been quite as exclusive, but next week I'm hoping that we'll have a little bit of coverage about it and I'll be able to tell you about who's won it.
That's what we like, in order.
Where to next, Steve?
Should we go to the Northwest Men's and the cup competitions that have been played?
Why not? Do you want me to run through the results first of all?
Oh, you can do, yeah.
Okay, so it all started last Friday evening in the Alliance Cup when Ince Rosebridge A defeated Wigan Springview A by 58 points to 16. Then on Saturday in the Cup, it was Hurstfinch 34, Folly Lane 24, Ashton Burrs 62, Blackbrook 4, Orrell St James 26, Hindley 10, Wigan Springview 16, Halton Farnworth Hornets 22. And in the trophy, this is your 24-0 sort of round, isn't it? I think, Steve, from what you was talking about before. Higginshaw 24, Westbank Burrs 0, Banky Bulls 24, Blackpool Scorpions 0, Newton Storm 24, Rochdale Hornets 0, and the game you were at.
Yeah, I was up. I went out to watching. It was Goulburn Parkside and Burton Wood Bridge, and it was an interesting game. Well, first and foremost, a little backdrop to it, because originally it was drawn and Burton Wood Bridge were at home, but for some reason, unknown reason, and I'm sure there's a reason from a council point of view, but the council at Burton Wood took down the goalposts on the pitch.
Really?
Obviously, Burton Wood higher from the local council.
I hope somebody's had a word from Burton Wood. You can't have the council going to keep post down, can you? So as they can't have games being played.
And I know they were saying that. Well, first they had a word with Goulburn, and from what I can gather, they asked about playing the game midweek, so it would be played when the posts were back up and playing it midweek. Unfortunately, that couldn't be done for one reason or another, so the fixture was reversed and it was played out at Goulburn's ground, and it was a quarter-finals, as we've been saying, and a fantastic win actually for Bridge. Like we said, we're away from home, up against a very tough Goulburn team, and anybody who's been down to Goulburn and watched them play, they are a very tough, hard team. First try of the game actually coming on the 38-minute mark, so that's 2 weeks in a row. The games I've been to, the first try I've had to come in between the 38th and 39th minute, so there's been some good defences in those two games. But this one, Goulburn Parkside, really physical, as I say. Burton Wood Bridge were lacking quite a few players because of various things, and they had a few new faces out, and I spoke to coach Matty Wilson about that, and this is what he had to say.
I'm here with Matty Wilson after Burton Wood Bridge had defeated Goulburn Parkside 22 points to 14. Matty, your thoughts on that?
It's always going to be a tough physical game, especially against Goulburn, and you know what they're going to bring, but you just got to keep calm and complete your sets.
Yeah, a lot of new faces out there.
Yeah, we had quite a few first team missing today due to the obviously the festival at the neighbouring weekend. But we're running two teams now, a first and a seconds, and we drafted a lot of the seconds in, and they've all pulled the shirts on and gone out and got the job done.
Yeah, and you've got to be really happy with them after that performance, because as you say, it was a really hard, tough game.
Yeah, it's always a tough place coming to Goulburn, and trying to stick the points on them, but I'll put my hands up to that they all stuck out and they all dug in nice and deep. And
obviously from a league point of view, you're going to meet these again. Going to be another tasty affair?
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, we had a few first teamers missing today, but obviously wait till we get the first teamers back and it'll be a better game, I think.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks very much.
Cheers, thank you.
And like he was saying, there was quite a few of his squad come from the Warrington area, and there was I think it was called a neighbourhood weekend, where it's basically sort of everybody getting together and enjoying sort of the
it's a big gig, isn't it?
Big community,
massive community gig. Yeah, lots and lots of different music people.
That's right. Yeah, so,
doing musicy things.
so he's been fortunate this year, like he said, that they've got an A team, and this is what I was on about before. So they've been able to fill that first team with their A team players, and obviously I mentioned there to him I'd seen a few new faces, and I tell you what, there were some really good lads out there, some really good lads, and certainly we'll be pushing, I'm sure, for first team places. But to get back to the score, it was Burton Wood Bridge 22, Goulburn Parkside 14. And scorers for Parkside, 2 tries from fullback Dylan Rowe and 1 for second row James Tunstall. For Burton Wood, centre Ollie Power went over for 1 and fullback Andy Nesbitt weighed in with 2. Weighed in with 1 and also 2. Sorry, he weighed in with 2. Goals for Parkside was by Paul Martin and Burton Bridge Josh Blackburn Woods. He kicked 3 and he also added 2 penalties. Man of the match for me was fullback for Burton Wood, Andy Nesbitt, who really came into line well. And as I say, there was a lot of high balls put in, and he did very well in that respect. It was a good game. It was a really good game. Disappointment for me about the competition is, like we just said, the 3 forfeited games out of 4. That needs to be looked at. Or how do we look at these cup competitions and what are the reasons behind them being forfeited? Is there some way we can get around this, in the future for the following seasons? Because we've been to various finals, cup finals, and they're a great event. And I'm not saying that people should get there on the back of forfeits. I mean, that's not their fault. If that happens, that happens. But then you hear people, and at the various grounds that I've been at, I've heard various people talk about the competition. Not disparagingly, but they don't put what I would say a wholehearted support behind it.
Which is a shame, because I know it was all put there for the benefit of the clubs and to give them a chance for getting to cup finals and to extend the season. Because when you look at some of these competitions, there used to be 10, maybe 12 teams that were, even 14 teams that were in competitions. So you had like a lot more fixtures to go on your fixture list. Nowadays, we've got leagues which have 8, 9 teams in them on the average.
Yep.
So that's only giving you 17, 18 games tops.
Yeah,
so is this what we want? Is this what modern rugby league's about? The guys not really want to play cup competitions anymore.
I think it's that catch-22 where when you get teams going through where they've gone in through on 4. In fact, I think it was, I'm not sure it was last season, but there was one team who actually got through to the semi-final, and they'd only played, I think it was 1, maybe 2 games, and they'd had some like 2 or 3 forfeits or thereabouts, which again, like I said, that's not their fault at the end of the day. But that then people always sort of question, should they really be there? And which is wrong. It shouldn't have to do that. So I think it needs to be looked at in some other way. First and foremost, again, like we spoke about before, I think there needs some honesty to be said and people to be upfront and say, well, we haven't got a team because of, and let's understand why. Then we can try and work out how we can get round that for following seasons. So we do have a full and robust cup competition, because it is important.
Comes down to communication again, doesn't it? From everybody's point of view. Looking onto the Alliance Cup, Lee East A had a narrow victory against Ashton Burrs A by 23 points to 22. It seems Lee East A in this cup competition, they're becoming a specialist at getting narrow results, aren't they? Rochdale Mayfield A 32, Thatto Heath Crusaders A 36.
So Crusaders, Tatooine coming out on top against Rochdale Mayfield, where they fell short in the NCL game.
They did, didn't they? Yeah. Just the one fixture to tell you about in the North West Men's League this coming week, a Friday night game between Hurstfinch and Ashton Burrs. Before we move on from Ashton Burrs, though, what I do want to say is that they have sent me a little bit of a write-up from the previous game, so I just want to say that. So it says, our first team booked a place in the North West Men's League Cup semi-finals with the 62-4 win over Blackbrook. It was a tight game for a good 30 minutes or so, and credit to Blackbrook, who never gave up the fight. Our tries came from Tyler Pilling, who scored 3, Rob Sexton 2, Alex Ashby, Joe Pilling, Chris Rothwell, Kian Hampson, Tom Hopkins, and the biggest cheer of the day went up when 17-year-old Connor Ashley went over for a try in his first team debuts. Robbie Smythe kicked 9 goals, And the man of the match, pulling the strings, was Jake Sculthorpe. And then it says here, unfortunately, our second team fell to a heartbreaking 23-22 defeat in extra time away at Lee East. Our young side included 3 under-18s and put on a great display, but just fell short. Our tries came from Billy Newton, Ben Fisher, James Stirrup and Josh Porter. Ben Fisher kicked a goal and Matty Ward kicked 2, and the man of the match was Ben Fisher. And what they did as well, I know it doesn't work well on radio this, but as part of this post they did a picture of Matty Ward and Tom Shaw both on open age debut, and Danny Hill playing for the second team alongside Connor Ashley making his first team debut. That for me is the encouraging side of things, isn't it, when you're giving players that extra bit of a thanks, you know, for the performances, and they're being rewarded with debuts and things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And those reports are great. So what I've got to say, though, which we say every week, please send them through on a regular basis, and we'll certainly read them out. As always, it helps us pad things out and give a bit more depth to what we're talking about. Speaking of depth, and speaking of that match,
okay,
I'm just looking at the Premier Division here.
Right.
On North West Men's Premier Division, we've got Oral St James, who we know, very, very good side. Sean McHugh's side, they've gone 6 from 6 so far this season, 12 points, top of the tree. Then we've got Hurst Finch, again, who we've seen, who obviously was in the final, the Barla final, played some really tough, hard rugby league. They're in second place, played 7, won 5. They've only lost to 1, and they've got 11 points. And then we've got Ashton Burrs. Now, Ashton Burrs...
Go on, how many games have they played?
They've only played 5 games, but they've won 5 games. So they're on 10 points, so they're just behind Hurst Finch. So this game is going to be a cracker on Friday, because there's all to play for there. Because don't forget, if Ashton Burrs then win that game, they go level on top on points with Oral St James. If Hurst Finch can do it, they can then overtake Oral St James until obviously Oral St James play. But it's nice and tight there, and that's going to be a really good game. A really good game.
I know, looking at that, we've just got the one fixture in the Premier Division, which, again, kind of makes a little bit of sense to me, because we're Magic Weekend. You'd think as a rugby league, we'd be wanting more people to be heading up to Newcastle on the Magic Weekend and making a success of that tournament than anything else. But granted, it's important that our teams are playing and stuff from a community point of view as well. But I kind of get it. I kind of get what they're doing with that, and they're not scheduling any other games in. I don't know whether it's been done by design or what, to be fair.
I think it has. I've got a feeling that it has. And I think that game might actually be one that Hurst Finch may have had to sidestep to fulfill the cup competition.
Yeah, right, because they were actually, I think, meant to be opening the season or something with Ashton Burrs, but didn't end up doing because of the success in the...
Well, I can see, if I'm going to go and watch that one, which hopefully I am, I'm going to have to try and book my car parking spot now, because that's going to be another one that I think is going to have a good crowd. Because I think, again, a lot of clubs from in and around, I think you'll get Thato, you'll get I think certainly you'll get Blackbrook down there, because obviously they play both of these clubs recently in the last few weeks. I'd be very surprised if there isn't. It's a cracking little ground, cracking little club. Yeah, that should be good.
You took us through the top end of the Premier Division. How does the rest of the competition look, and what else is happening in the leagues?
Well, from the rest of the competition from a Premier Division, we've got, as I said, we had Ashton Burrs there. Then we've got Shevington Sharks. They're next. Blackbrook and Latchford are the 3 there. All very much, we've got Shevington on 9 points, Blackbrook on 6 points, Latchford Albion, who not going as well as they usually do. They've played 7, won 3, lost 4. I know there's been quite a bit of disruption. When I was talking to Martin a few weeks ago when they were playing Blackbrook at home with players doing representative stuff, which has has not helped his team, which as much as he doesn't, sort of decry them playing for the likes of the teachers and the lads in some of the lads in the President's Cup. So, but obviously the knock-on effect is if you've not got the people to fill in of that quality, it is difficult. Then you've got Alton Farnworth, they're on 4 points, Isham Atoms on 2 points, and then Hindley bottom of the tree at the moment. They're still to record their first victory. So moving on into Division 1. Then we've got a couple of Wigan sides. We've got Wigan Springview who are second. Forley Lane are on top with 14 points. They've played 8, won 7, lost 1.
So they've had a really good start to the season, haven't they, Forley?
Yeah. Saying that, Wigan Springview, they've 6. They've won 5, only lost 1. So, the coattails there. Then you've got Thatchworth Crusaders A, who are always thereabouts. They've played 8. They've won 5, lost 3. They've got 10 points. Then Dalton, they've played 6 games, won 4, lost 2. They're on 8 points. Ulverston are just underneath them. They've played 6, won 3, lost 3. And we've then got Wigan St Cuthberts. They've played 7. They've won 3, lost 3, and they've drawn 1. That's 6 points to them. Chorley Panthers are in 7th. They have 8 games, 3 they've won, 5 they've lost on 6 points. Then West Orton Lions, they've played 8. They've won 2, lost 5, and drawn 1. 5 points. And this is what really surprises me. In 9th is Salford City Roosters.
All right, okay.
Which I would have expected them to be a little bit higher. Having watched them, if you remembered, in the finals. Down at Salford.
And I know that they've got a real talented group of younger players at the moment, that they're almost trying to transition those guys into the first team.
Yeah.
We know, having spoke with Chris a few weeks ago, that they are very much a club that's on the forefront.
Yeah.
But at the moment, results not doing them any service
in
that particular division. But again, it sounds quite tight, that, when you went through it.
Yeah, it is. From I would say 4th down to 9th, they're all in, down to 10th, because Cadiz Rhinos are propping everything up, played 7, won 1, lost 6, they've got 2 points. But from 4th, Dalton on 8 points, all the way down to Canistad, everybody else they're just in single points. So you've got the top 3 who are just away. Some said Dalton on 8, and then you've got Thatchworth Crusaders on 10. But Forley Lane with 14 look to be, the team to chase. Division 2, Burton Woodbridge having a cracking season. They are really are. Played 7, won 6, lost just 1. They've got 12 points. But on the coattails it's Goulburn Parkside. As I said earlier on, these two last year in the finals, Burton Wood just beat them. If you remember, at Victoria Park, if you remember, I think we give the man of the match to. I'm not sure it was.
Was it the scrum half, and the winger scored 4 tries?
That's right,
3 tries.
And he came and had a go at us after the game.
It was all good natured.
Yeah,
I think it was anyway.
So we've got Goulburn Parkside there at 7, played 7, won 5, lost 2, 10 points. Then Roost Pioneers. Now, if you remember, Roost Pioneers were they were top of the tree and were undefeated. But now they've lost a couple of games. In fact, they've lost 3. They played 8, won 5, lost 3. They're on 10 points. Then Newton Storm, they've won. They played 8. They've won 4 and lost 4, and they're on 8 points. Ashton Burrs A, they played 7, won 4, lost 3, also on 8 points. Walney Central, who I thought they might have been a little bit higher. But they're struggling a little bit.
Did they have a very good start to the season?
They had what looked like a good start, because they that's when the wins were coming back to back, as it were. And they have tailed off a little bit. They're on the same points as Newton. It's played 8, won 4, lost 4, 8 points. Then Lee Miners Rangers A, they played 7, won 3, lost 4 on 6 points. Then we've got Woolston Rovers A. They've played 6, won 2, lost 4. And then we've got Rochdale Mayfield A. They played 6. They've won 2 and lost 4. And they're 4 points. And propping things up is Highpool Tigers, who have yet to register a win. They've played 6 and lost all 6, unfortunately. But top of the tree there, Burton Wood. Saw them play a couple of times now, and I think certainly them, having seen them and Goulburn Parkside, they're going to be in the runners and riders. Newton Storm, if they can keep the team together that they've got at the moment and not be chopped and changed too much, then I can see them in there. But Loose Pioneers, I've only from the early results so that I can judge things on. As he says, slipped a little bit. It'll be interesting to find out what's happened. So let's move on to Division 3 in the North West Men's League. We have got, top of the tree there, it's Crossfields A. They've played 7, won 6, lost 1, 11 points. Followed by Westbank Bears, who have only played 5, but have won all 5, so they've got 10 points. Higginshaw, played 7, won 4, lost 3 on 8 points. Then, I'm really pleased for these guys. The Blackpool Scorpions, they're 4th. They've played 8, they've won 4 and lost 4, which I'm really made up for them because, they've been having up and down over the last few seasons. And we always say, they're finding it, both Blackpool teams found it difficult. Carswood Stags played 6, won 3, lost 3, and they've got 6 points. Rochdale Hornets played 5, they have won 2 and lost 3, and they've got 4 points. Langworthy Reds, 7 points, played 7, won 2, lost 5 on 4 points. Waterhead Warriors A, they played 5, lost 2, won 2, lost 3, they're 3 points, and propping things up is Clockface Chargers A, and that is played 6 and lost 6, and they must have forfeited a game by the looks of things, because they have got a -1.
Yes, there is usually a point deduction if you are forfeiting in those leagues. Really interesting to see how these teams are all sort of flying at the moment, or not, as the case may be. Any other leagues to tell us about?
Yeah, we've got Division 4. Division 4, the new boys, some of the new boys are in here. So we've got, when I say new boys, there's a couple of teams. Certainly Runcorn Highfield, and they are running high at the moment because they played 7, won 7, 14 points, top of the tree. Good to hear this team back again. Banky Bulls played 6, won 5, lost 1. So I'm sure when Runcorn Highfield and Banky Bulls come up against each other, there's going to be, that's going to be interesting. Bolton RLFC played 5, won 3, lost 2, 6 points. Blackpool Stanley. They've played 6, won 3 and lost 3. That's 1, 3 and lost 3, and they're on 5 points. So I presume they must have forfeited the game there somewhere along the line. Wigan Springview A, they've played 6, won 2, lost 4 points for them. And Culture Eagles, 6 games played for them, and same again, 1, 2, lost 4, and 4 points for them. Garswood Stags Reserves, again, exactly the same for them, but again, I think they possibly forfeited the game because they've only got 3 points. Much the same for Liverpool Lizards. They've played 6, they've won 2, lost 4. And Preston and South Ribble Rabbitohs, they have played 6, they've won 1, lost 5, and they have got 1 point. So that's all the divisions with regards to the North West Men's. The last division is the A team, which is headed by Lee Ste, and they've played 7, won 5, lost 2. 10 points for them. Oldham St Anne's are next. They played 5. They've won 4 and lost 1. Inch Rose Bridge A, they've won 5. Not played 5, won 2, lost 3, and it's 4 points for them. Oral St James A, they've played 3, they've won 2 and lost 1. They've got 3 points. Wigan St Jude's 5 games played there, won 1, lost 4, 2 points. And Piltrex A, they have played 5, they've won 1, they have lost 4, and again they must have forfeited. In fact, they forfeited a couple of times by the looks of things, and they're on -1 points. So things not looking too good for the Piltrex club at the moment by the lot of things from some of the sort of fixtures and results in both competitions.
Let's hope they can pick things up, because a strong Pilks is part of a strong St Helens community game as well, isn't it? Right, I'm going to jump over to the Yorkshire Men's League. What we'll do is I think we'll run through the leagues for these next week, if that's okay.
I think that's great.
We'll probably jump and sort of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, because there's not a great deal of games this week, is there?
No, not really. But it's all been sort of cup games, and even if you look at the fixture list, there's not much of a fixture list. So, in the cup on Saturday, Newsham Panthers 24, Brighouse Rangers 0, Doncaster Tollbar 28, Stanley Rangers 24. I don't know if you've got a result for this one, Steve. Ossett Trinity Tigers against Siddle Academy.
Is that in the cup, did you say?
That's in the cup.
Ossett Trinity Tigers 8, Siddle Academy 48.
Oh, so a powerful win in the end for Siddle Academy there. And then from the trophy, we have Kirkburton Cougars 18, Queensbury 34, Wibsey Warriors 16, Bradford Dudley Hill 20, Greetland All-Rounders 28, Castleford Panthers 24, Seacroft Sharks 24, Garforth Tigers 0. And then in the Shield, Bramley Buffaloes 42, Upton 0. That's a great win for the Bramley Buffaloes, that is. Todmorden 44, Goole Vikings 46.
Ooh,
that sounds like an
score,
amazing game. I mean, I don't know where the tackle bags went, but certainly plenty of attack there.
I'd love to know if that was won by a goal in the last sort of dying embers.
Goole Vikings 46. Jeez, you wouldn't expect that, would you? East Hull 42, Batley Boys 6, Dodworth Miners 14, Keighley Albion 26. And in the Alliance Cup, Bentley 24, Shawcross Sharks 0, Ulton Raiders 41, Skirler 16, Normanton Knights 30, Myton Warriors 18, Hull Dockers 0, Hunslet 24. And then some league action to tell you about. Sherburn Bears 12, Methley Warriors 26 from Division 3. In Division 4A, Scarborough Pirates against Harrogate Hawks was called off. From Division 4B, Mould Green 0, West Craven Warriors 54, and Division 4C, Hemsworth Dragons 28, Derby Elks 34. But yes, those were your results from the Yorkshire Men's League. The fixtures this coming week sees action take place tonight. Hunslet Amateurs against Loch Lane in the NCL East. Then on Thursday in the Hull Division, it's Skirler Bulls against Beverley. On Saturday, Hull Wyke host Cutsyke Raiders. And in Division 4A, it's Batley Boys against the Scarborough Pirates. Goole Vikings taking on the Harrogate Hawks. From Division 4C, Dodworth Miners hosting Derby Elks, Rycroft Hammers making the trip up to Upton. And in the Hull Division, again on Saturday, Cottingham Tigers host East Hull, West Hull host Myton Warriors. And then from the NCL West Division, Dewsbury Moor host East Leeds. That's your action coming up, and that's taking place in the Yorkshire Men's League. Let's jump across to Cumbria now and take in the Barrow ARL first of all. So in the Knockout Cup last Friday, Barrow Island 22, Millom 10, Walney Central 30, Dalton 28, Ulverston 24, Ascombe 0. And your fixtures this coming Friday sees Ulverston at home to Ascombe, Dalton at home to Millom, Barrow Island host Walney Central. No results to tell you from the Southern Conference, but fixtures this week sees Bristol Allgolds host the West Warriors, Brentwood Eels at home to the Hammersmith Hills Hoists, London Chargers host Bedford Tigers, and the North Hearts Crusaders, they're at home against the Eastern Rhinos. Not much to tell you from a wheelchair point of view. Gravesend Dynamite won 24-0 against the Argonauts in the South Division.
Love that.
And some fixtures to tell you about this coming week from the Championship. Wigan Warriors A hosting North Wales Crusaders. North Wales Crusaders A host Wakefield Trinity in the North section. Hereford Harriers are hosting Tarvin Tigers in the West section, and in the South it's the Woodlands Warriors taking on those Argonauts again. And then on Sunday, Rochdale Hornets are due to play against Mersey Storm, and in the South Division, Gravesend Dynamite hosting Medway Dragons. Moving on to Scotland, and there's another result here in the Scotland League. Glasgow 6, Forth Valley Vikings 52. Well done to the Forth Valley Vikings there. And in Wales, the South Wales League, well, that's underway now with the Aberafon Fighting Irish 30, Bridgend 38, Cynon Valley Cavaliers 18, Ronda Outlaws 64, South Wales Jets 80, Tarvin Tigers 4, and Aber Valley Wolves taking on the Cardiff Blue Dragons was unfortunately postponed. Moving on to the East of England Cup, Canvey Knights 26, Bedford Tigers A 54, and Hemel Stags 24, St Albans Centurions 0. And then in the Midlands Merit League, just the one result to tell you about, those North East Worcestershire Ravens 18, Nottingham Outlaws A 62. Fixtures this coming week from the regional leagues in London on Saturday. The Premier Division sees London Scholars A at home to Medway Dragons, London Chargers A hosting Brixton Bulls, and the West Warriors A heading over to Elmbridge Eagles. From the Merit League, it's a busy one at Brighton and Hove. They're hosting the East London Dockers. And in the East of England Premier Division, it's Anglian Vipers taking on the Bedford Tigers A side. North Hearts Crusaders A hosting St Albans Centurions. And from the Merit League, Invicta Panthers taking on Brentwood Eels A, and those Canvey Knights hosting Cambridge Pride. Action from the Midlands sees the Premier Division, Leamington Royals up against the Birmingham Bulldogs, Telford Raiders hosting Coventry Bears. And action from the Merit League, that sees Staffordshire Quantums taking on Sherwood Wolfhunt A. South West Division, in the Premier Division, it's Exeter Ravens against the Saltash Essians, Tarka Storm hosting the Devon Sharks. And then from the West of England Premier Division, the University of Gloucestershire Old Boys host Swindon St George. And then in the North Wales League, the Conway Celts are up against the Flintshire Falcons, Bangor Buffaloes are up against the Clwyd Cobras. And then your action to look forward to in the South Wales League, that sees Tarvin Tigers up against Aber Valley Wolves, Cardiff Blue Dragons up against South Wales Jets, Ronda Outlaws hosting the Aberafon Fighting Irish, and those Cynon Valley Cavaliers head on over to Bridgend Blue Bulls. Lots to look forward to there.
And breathe.
And I can breathe now. Right, but I don't give up because we've got Cumberland to bring you, the Cumbrian Roundup. And again, many thanks to Lorraine de Graaf for sending these through. It's great to get this level of detail, really. So, a few matches happening on Friday evening, last Friday evening that is. Kells A36, Maryport 16. At half time, it was only 16 points to 10 as far as Kells were concerned, and they had tries to celebrate from Ashton Syce, who got 3. Dan Starkey, who got 2. Corey Chambers, Will Ennis also got on the score sheet with Dan Starkey kicking a couple of goals. The man of the match for Kells was Mason Luthwaite. Interesting to see him playing at that level because he's played a lot of first team. So whether he's been injured and he's on his way back or whether he's just been missing because of work commitments, I'm not 100% sure, but good to see him back nonetheless. He's one of the top second rowers knocking around in the National Conference on his days, Mason. So I'm hoping that he pushes his way through. And for Maryport, their tries came courtesy of Josh Patterson, Luke Cremins and Luke Baker, with conversions put on the board by Josh Patterson, he kicked one, and Blake Miller with the other. And the man of the match there for Maryport was Josh Patterson. So that was in the first game. In the second game that we have a result for, Ellenborough A 4, Wathborough A 20. At half time, nothing between these two sides, 6-0 in favour of Wathborough. Ellenborough having their sole try to celebrate through Rocco Occasini. Ellenborough's man of the match was Charlie Scott. Wathborough, meanwhile, had tries through Jack Megan, Tom Clark, Greg Dawson and Conor Molyneux. Jensen Alstrom kicking a couple of goals there. And the man of the match was Jake Greenuff. And then this looks like an entertaining game. Because get this, I'm going to read the half-time score out first of all. And I want you to have a guess at what the full-time score could have been. So at half-time, this was Cockermouth 12, Glasson Rangers 20. What do you reckon full-time score would have been there?
I reckon it was 32-30 for Cockermouth.
Close. Cockermouth 42, Glasson Rangers 26. So as I mentioned, they got on a right proper run in the first half. Did Glasson Rangers, scoring tries from Shane Williams, from Greg Rowley, from Seamus Hutton, and Ben Rathall. 2 goals from the boot of Ryan Scott in that first half. Cockermouth did hit back with a couple of tries themselves to, as I mentioned, make it 20 points to 12 at half time. Cockermouth with Seamus Hutton scoring 2, Alex Barton, Ryan Scott, Ethan Harris, Regan Tinian, Shane Cusack and Ethan Cross with the tries. Ryan Scott kicking 5 goals. And for Glasson Rangers, I should say, it was tries for Kieran Ritchie, Shane Williams, Greg Rowley, Ben Rathall and Connor Wilson, with Luke Johnson kicking 3 goals. And then on Saturday, bit of a demolition job here, by the way, from Dissington up against Hensingham. 22-0 at half-time, eventually winning by 40 points to 0. Tries from Lewis Whitehead, he grabbed 2. Tyrone Dalton grabbed 2. Jack Penrice, Kelvin Lynch, Stephen Clark chipping in with tries. Stephen Clark also adding 6 goals too. But yeah, a phenomenal performance that from Dissington. All warms us up quite nicely, in fairness, because we've got the first cup final to look forward to this week in Cumbria. So the one that we're going to be talking about now for the next couple of minutes is the EB Lamb Cup. So I want to tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah.
So in the Carla League, you've got 4 trophies that you can aim yourself at. So you've got the EB Lamb Amateur Cup, which the final's happening this weekend, and that is for any players who have never signed a professional contract. So basically, if you've turned out, you've pulled an academy shirt on, you've done whatever, you are ineligible to play in that cup competition. Right. It's purely for the amateur lads.
Yeah.
And in that final, we see Maryport up against Wathbrow Hornets A game that's being played at Dissington on Friday night. So if you're in the area, get yourself down there. You're going to be entertained. Now, you may be thinking, hang on, you mentioned 4 competitions. What are the other 3 that get played for? Obviously, we have the Holman Igglesund League title. We've been running through all the results from the Holman Igglesund Cumberland League, of course. And then there's the Holman Igglesund Top 4 Grand Final, which is played for at the end of the end of the season, where the top 4 teams play up against each other, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. And then the other competition is the Fair Press Cumberland Cup, a cup competition for all the teams and players in Carla. So it doesn't matter if you play for Workington Town for 200 games, or if you've represented Whitehaven on just that one occasion, you can play in that cup.
Yeah, so Kyler Moore, if you're listening.
I think he's too busy doing commentary, to be honest.
He'll be marking homework.
Marking homework. He's now a teacher, isn't he? Hey, what that does mean is that maybe he could come into Burnings for the President's Cup next year.
Could well do, yeah.
To represent Great Britain teachers.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to mention that to him.
Yeah.
If I get to work with him again this season, you never know. I did actually have the pleasure of his company this weekend. I did joke, actually. I know we're going a little bit off topic here, but right at the start of the game. So basically, I'm commentating on the first game of the Summer Bash, which is Widnes against Swinton.
Yeah.
So I've got Kyle Moore who comes and stands alongside me, and he's doing the commentary. And I said, and I'm going to introduce my co-commentator, Kyle Lamore. I turned to him and I said, Kyle, is it true that you only get the opportunity to commentate on your former teams now? Because the last time I saw him on a TV broadcast, he was commentating on St Helens.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
There's only me who could get away with such cheek, isn't there, to be honest? He just gave me a wry smile and a dig in the ribs. So, yeah, he got his own back. So that was all the action from the Cumberland League. We had a little bit of a Kyle Moore diversion there, didn't we? And one other bit of news that I do want to sort of bring you is that history will be made on this coming Sunday when the first Women's Rugby League match will take place in either of the counties of Norfolk and Suffolk. The game is between the Anglian Vipers and Bedford Tigers, and it'll be the opening fixture of a double header, with the club's men's side squaring up afterwards in the Eastern League Premier Division. Action at the Vipers base starts at 12:30 with the women's clash, while the men's match gets underway at 2:30. The occasion owes much to the sheer enthusiasm of those who run the Anglian Vipers and to the initiative of player Stacey Hargrave Walker. Hargrave Walker, who lives locally and plays rugby union, and whose husband is a St Helens fan, while the father-in-law supports Wigan Warriors. I have no idea what that bearing has on things, but it could be quite tasty when it gets to family outings, possibly, has previously featured for the Royal Navy's Rugby League team. She wasted no time after seeing a Vipers advert on Facebook in getting in touch, and club official Ed Lambert said, "We had about 8 ladies training regularly last season, and Stacey has attracted more players to the club this year, so we now have enough to run a team. Those players, now numbering around the 30 mark, hail from as far afield as Bury St Edmunds, Diss, Ipswich and even Norfolk, in addition to where the club is based, and everyone's looking forward to a series of forthcoming friendlies." That's again like we touched upon earlier when we were speaking about the chat that I had with Neil from Rochdale Mayfield.
Yeah.
They've done so well to get that off the ground, and that sounds very much similar to what was going on regards the Leamington Royals that I spoke to the other week at the Women's Nines. It's just pushing forward in so many different ways, isn't it?
It is.
Great to tell you about that. Really, really appreciate that as well. And do keep your news coming. Have we reached the end, Steve?
I think considering we didn't have much, I think we've got through plenty there, mate.
One last thing, of course, is that over the course of the weekend, we do have the England Community Lions that are in action against their Wales counterpart. We have 2 matches that are going to take place, the first of which is going to be played at 12 midday, the second at 4 p.m. So at 12, it's the turn of the under-16s to go head-to-head against each other. And if you remember last year, Wales won both encounters over the course of the year. So plenty to look forward to. Wales hosting it in the backyard. Artillery Rugby Union Club, to be exact. And that is going to be fantastic. And the under-18s, well, I've been impressed when I've seen them train this season. So they'll be up against the under-18 counterparts at 4 p.m. Hopefully, I'll have a bit of reaction for you next week. I'm looking forward to getting away this coming weekend and bringing plenty of action, I suppose, to social media on both of those games, and plenty of aftermath for us as well.
Yeah, the other thing I was seeing, was it you mentioned last week, was a walk-on for...
There was, yeah. So I managed to have a quick chat with Alan Coleman, who's boss of Swinton, but until lately has been also head of the under-19 side of the England Community Lions. And in fact, he's still involved with the programme. He's now director of coaching. And he was very keen to get the word out to clubs in the Northwest that they were launching an event at the start of it was the Logan and Gary Hart Fund. So the idea behind this, if anybody isn't aware of the background, is that Logan Holgate and Gary McMahon sadly were both lost their lives. Gary went on the Italy tour and was assistant coach and passed away after the first round of fixtures. Logan passed away in his sleep a few weeks later when back at home after that win from that side. And both families have been absolutely magnificent in getting together along with the Lions and coming up with this project where the idea is that they raise funds so that community players and community clubs and community teams can get themselves tested for any heart defects. So this is a really, really important thing moving forward. And the first event took place a couple of weeks ago in Cumbria, which was so well attended by the different Cumbrian clubs. They walked between, Wathbrow and Kells and ended up at Hensingham, and it just seemed like more and more people joined the walk as the day went on. For the Northwest version, they met up at the bottom of Rivington Pike and climbed to the very top. And again, from the pictures that I've seen, there was people from all kinds of different clubs. I've seen them turning out, so people from Wigan St Pat's, from Lee Miners Rangers, from Lee East, from Wigan St Jude's, just to name a couple of clubs there.
Yeah.
It was a really well attended walk, and I hope that it's the start of something big. And I look forward to, again, keeping people up to date with what's going on with that fund as other events are announced.
Yeah, very much so. I saw the photos too on Twitter, and I thought, that's great. Again, it's the community thing. We spoke about it during COVID and about how they come together, and now they're not amateur in any way, shape or form.
We speak about it every week. We don't just speak about it, and every single guest that we have puts the best foot forward, don't they? And puts the best foot forward on behalf of their clubs. Right, we have talked for long enough, I feel, this week. We'll have plenty to bring you again next week as everything goes back into normal duties. But we'll see you then. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Bye-bye for now.